to say they honestly.
Hi, everyone. And I guess it would be hump day. Happy hump day. Um, I can't explain to everyone how upset I am that I don't have the capacity to actually sit down and do a show and be dedicated to it in the way I was. And that's all about to change right after the elections. I find a lot more joy in doing like an hour podcast Monday through Friday and keeping people up to date rather than doing so much work. But I have realized, and I'm sure all of you listening to me right now have realized, that we really don't have much media. We don't have people that are advising us on the things that are happening. We don't have people that are analyzing the things that we care about. We have people talking about Candace Owens, right? And the whole Charlie Kirk thing. And there's a whole reason why I didn't even enter that space, and I will not. There's a lot of facts that they're leaving out. I mean, they're trashing Candace, but there's a ton they can use, right? That I have that they possibly have too. So these fake arguments are extremely annoying. I'm also extremely upset that, we have so much happening right now. We have a lot of lawsuits going on, and, no one's talking about them. This is the stuff that obviously that we've been doing for almost a decade, which is monitoring these NGOs. And the reason is I take you back in time to the shows that we did about HSBC. And that's the problem, right? That people are forgetting that we had caught the money train coming in right before fentanyl. There's so much noise out there that you can't even find a real signal anymore, period. So, when I get on my feed, and I'm pretty glad that X changed the algorithm, that I actually see the people I follow. And I've told you this before. So it's time to cleanse your followings on X and make sure you're following the people that you want to look at stuff from. That's very important. You can't read, 5,000 people's tweets unless the 5,000 people aren't real. And, I have to say, just watching the dynamics online. I just saw that Jack Posobiec was on Piers Morgan. And it's like, oh, now we're entering into the Five Eyes territory. They were harassing him about Pizzagate, but no one talked about Rape Melania. Okay. It's just terrible, the way things are done. Hi, Kitty. You want to say hi? Yeah, of course he does. My old man. Whenever I'm online, he must come so I can fit the title of cat lady. Who, by the way, is getting so many knots because he's too old to groom himself and he won't let me comb him. So I may have to shave this little bugger. So, every time I see it, and I'm not saying this to like toot my horn, but I read everybody's work. I was actually having this conversation with other people yesterday. I'm watching what news are putting out. And when I say news, I'm not just talking about brick and mortar, right? The legacy ones that are under FCC investigation right now to see if they're going to maintain their licenses, which I just wanted to say, is yes. Oh gosh, sorry. He's really old. I'm sorry he comes first. He saved my life. So this 20-year-old feline has status over everybody. He rules me. I am his human slave. Um, but as I was telling them, like I'm reading, like I look at the shit that the Gateway Pundit puts out. It's stupid. It's like 5 lines and it's reactionary. Laura Loomer does some great work. Everyone else is paid placement. Like it's not even news. It's like, tell us something we don't know, please. Tell us something we haven't seen. Um, tell us about what's really going on in Iran. You guys already read the Turkey Doctrine, so you already know. Okay, I'm putting you down. I'm sorry. Um, tell us what's going on in Venezuela. I mean, the earthquake happened now. Tell us what's going on in Cuba. Tell us what's going on in Panama. Tell us what's going on in our backyard. Tell us about the fires in Canada. Tell us about Gavin Newsom's lawsuit. Who wore the wire? What did they say? Simple things. And if you don't want to get into the geopolitics of things, right? Well, what are we doing about elections? So today, right after the show, I should be publishing my part 7 to Roy Neville Singham, right? Someone I've talked about before in the past, someone I know very, very well, and there's an open investigation right now on him. Also, the Hopewell Fund, and I hope all of you that are from Nebraska actually saw my article last night, which is the topic of discussion today. Which is about elections. So the Nebraska Attorney General has been going after the Hopewell Fund for having blank money. Today, I'm going to give the DOJ and everybody else some more blank money from Roy, the Chinese conduit. Not to say that the Hopewell Fund isn't funneling in Chinese money. To kind of put it in perspective, when we talked about HSBC, I explained to you how they got caught laundering funds that I kind of helped with my lunch dates, telling the interns that were supposedly investigating where to look. And those funds were all cartel money, but it was like the triads and other like Chinese mafia people. They were washing their money through the cartels, hence why fentanyl is Chinese and it's coming through our border. Yes. What is it? Can you guys hear that? Like, he won't leave me alone. What would you like? Do you want to sit on my lap? You can sit on my lap as long as you don't like. He's just talking like, hey, pick me up. So I've said this before, China is one of the biggest threats. I've also said before, stop, converging superconductor factories with AI data centers. Not the same thing. Okay. But we'll get into that more with the reads that I'm going to be putting out, the articles. I am changing my website soon. It's not going to be Tori Says. It's going to be just Tor. So it's going to be the organization regarding everything. And I should be fixing that when I have time. For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be constantly on the move, starting tomorrow. And August 1st is when I think I may park my butt at home more. That's a lie. It's not going to happen. It's totally not. I'm really excited about I was invited to speak at a Korean American event. And I'm really excited to go there. So I go there in a week or so. Is your eye tearing, baby boy? Yeah. He was outside in the heat. And, oh my God, there's so much that I want to say. Let's just keep it short. Let's get into the nitty gritty. How about that? So, as you all know, we watch all these subversives. Bless you, baby boy. We watch all of these subversives. We're always paying attention. And, I find it funny how new, points of we're smart, we know best. Like they take my sloppy seconds. Okay, that's enough. They take my sloppy seconds and I want to have a cigarette. Okay. Do you mind? Give me a hot minute. And then they start writing about how they know about these NGOs when they really don't. Now, the concern that I had over a year and a half ago when I showed the No Kings protests was that the same groups were coalescing. And they became from No King's Protest to Ice Watch. And from Ice Watch, they're now Election Watch. But they're still targeting ICE, and they're still targeting specific people. And I may say this for those that have ears to hear. I have talked about before how I've partook in training that they had, which was talking about explosives and how to detonate things. Now, since vehicles are being stopped by ICE, especially around elections, as this was actually, I don't know if it's in the Ohio one or another recording, because I'm only going to show you 2 recordings today, right? And the reason I'm not showing them is not because you can't know, right? Is because I'm going to burn my persona in there, and then I won't be able to watch them anymore. So on these I can, because I had multiple personas in there, and so they're not going to find me. So, and I would be the last one on the list they're looking for. And you're going to be like, but you're very recognizable. Yeah, I watch them in our chats, ours, meaning I'm partaking and I'm like leadership, where they're talking shit about Tori Maris. And they're like, she probably doesn't know a lot because she doesn't put everything out there. No shit, because I'm not a thirsty journalist, right? I'm here to have efficacy, not just report things, to actually do things. So there were delays in actually publishing articles because I had to file things, right? Because when I find things, I don't just, put it out there. I file things. I file complaint forms. I email, authorities, aside from the FBI, of course. I'm sending it to local authorities. Like I needed to send an email to the AG of Nebraska before I published, right? Stuff like that. IRS complaint forms. Hey, they're doing dirty stuff here. Check their 990 forms. Look what I found. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, and this isn't innocent because look at this. Boom, 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 boom. And hey, if you recover any of that $4 billion, I'd like 10%. Because I have absolutely no retirement, so I'm banking on that bitch. I filed a couple of them. Hopefully I'll get it, but I still didn't even get my reward for Mr. Song, who shot up the ICE facility in Texas, right? And I gave him the location. And here's why I'm mentioning him. Because Song was also part of these networks. Song, that got so many years, and all the other people that were arrested, he was also at the Hong Kong protests in 2019. Just like that other guy. What was that ratty guy that went to Mar-a-Lago? Shit, I forget his name. Anyway, he was also at the Hong Kong protests and at Ukraine recruiting people. He was in Hong Kong recruiting people. He went to Korea to recruit people to do shit in Ukraine. And then he was at Mar-a-Lago and decided that he was going to shoot. And his wife is like this big spookawoo connected person in Hawaii. But we're not going to look there because we're just going to look at what the news tell us. Okay. So, going back to the ICE, they're going to be doing car stops from what I saw. And after having a conversation, with Angela, I agree with her assessment that my concern, Ryan Ruth, thank you for that. My concern is that our vehicles are hackable, and vehicles may be running people over. Vehicles may be exploding. Vehicles may be killing people, right? Remotely. So I would highly suggest that ICE, who will be partaking around elections and before elections on these traffic stops, to ensure that they have signal jammers and to ensure that the cars aren't remotely operated. Okay. So having said that PSA, we're going to start the show. I think we should start with what I put together for you. Is this it? Yes. So I want you guys to listen to them training. Okay. This training is really important that you observe it. Because you're going to see things and hear things. And I cut it down, right? From an hour and 20 minutes, I got it down to like 30 minutes, but 5 minutes of that is me talking too. So I want you guys to see this where I sliced it up. And then I'll be right back. But wait, before I go, I was thinking about something. We're in an era where chaos is not merely an accident, right? It's actually a method. Noise is coming from every direction. Breaking news, competing narratives, outrage manufactured by the hour. Scandals that vanish before anyone can examine them, like Venezuela had an earthquake. A week later, we forgot about that. And endless arguments over details designed to keep us from actually seeing the pattern. People are flooded with information, but starved for understanding. They're told so much that they no longer know what to believe, and that basically is the point. Because confusion is a form of control. When people are confused, they stop asking who benefits. When they're exhausted, they stop following the money, the power, the decisions made behind closed doors. When every day brings a new emergency, a new villain, a new distraction, they have no time left to recognize the machinery that produced the whole crisis in the first place. Okay. And that's where story matters, right? Facts are essential. Documents are essential. Dates, names, bank records, votes, meetings, those are the bones of truth. But facts facts alone don't always break through a public mind that has been conditioned to scroll past catastrophe, right? A story gives those facts a heartbeat. It lets people see the human cost, feel the stakes, and recognize themselves inside the truth. Fiction can do something very remarkable. It can remove the labels that trigger automatic rejection. Change the name, change the setting, change the flag on the wall, and suddenly people see what they refused to see when it was presented as their own reality. They may deny the report, they may dismiss a whistleblower, they may attack the messenger. But when the same pattern is revealed through a story, a frightened family, a compromised official, a journalist following a thread, an institution protecting itself instead of the people, it becomes harder to look away. The story, right? Because fiction is not always an escape from reality. Sometimes it is the only way reality can get past the guards people have built around their minds. Now, in an age of intentional confusion, the task is not to simply give people more information. It's to help them make sense of it, to connect the fragments, to show the pattern, to remind them that chaos has authors, incentives, beneficiaries, and consequences. So the truth does not become less true because it's told through a story. Sometimes the story is how people finally recognize the truth that they already knew. So, having said that, let's get to some facts before we get to the story. How about that? See y'all in a few minutes.
All I want to say, they on it for you.
Candles smoke up in the sky. Everybody's singing while the sirens pass by. Red lights, blue lights, courthouse marble white. Somebody better tell the truth tonight. We were born from a question and a handwritten line. Can the law stand taller than the men with the signs? Can a farmer, a printer, a kid in the street, call out a king and still land on their feet. Now the headlines hit like a slot machine. Every ruling gets painted in a team color scheme. Left hand, right hand, same old game. Who bends the branch gets to bless the flame. And they'll say, don't worry baby, this is how it goes. Just another black robe, just another closed door. But when the last referee gets bought by the fight, who calls foul in the middle of the night? Don't let the machine decide. Don't let the code wear a crown in disguise. Keep the gavel in the daylight, keep the truth alive. Don't let the machine decide. No red crown, no blue throne, no shadow hand on the law we own. America, wake up, look 'em in the eyes. Don't let the machine decide. They called it the weakest branch, no sword, no gold, just a paper and a promise that the people would hold. But a promise gets thin when the trust runs dry and the crowd starts asking for a cleaner lie. Let the robot do it, let the numbers be fair. No donor, no dinner, no smoke in the air. But who rolled the weights, who fed it the file, who taught her what justice should look like on trial? You can impeach a judge, you can name a bad man, you can read his dissent, put the pen in your hand. But when the verdict comes faceless, cold and refined, how do you cross-examine a line? Don't let the machine decide. Don't let the code wear a crown in disguise. Keep the gavel in the daylight, keep the truth alive. Don't let the machine decide. No red crown, no blue throne, no shadow hand on the law we own. America, wake up, look 'em in the eyes. Don't let the machine decide. Keep it human, keep it honest, keep it where the people saw it. Keep it human, keep it bright, don't sell the soul for a clean little lie. One time the guardian chose a side, and the whole house cracked where the bloodlines dry. That's not a ghost story, that's a warning bell. When the court falls down, all the doors go as well. So don't give me a jersey, don't give me a spin. Don't tell me it's freedom when your side gets in. Give me law that can humble the powerful too, whether they're wearing red, black, gold, or blue. Who picked the pipeline, who paid the brief, who shopped the courtroom, who sells belief, who floods the docket, who names the fare, who hides the fingerprint deep in the air, who trains the data, who sets the frame, who gets forgotten when the machine says names. And when they say it's neutral, honey, go back inside. Say, show me the hand that taught it to decide. Because justice ain't a download, mercy ain't a code, a conscience ain't a setting on a government phone. A person in the courtroom, a name on the page, a reason you can answer wrong, you can change. Don't let the machine decide. Don't let the code wear a crown in disguise. Keep the gavel in the daylight, keep the truth alive. Don't let the machine decide. No red crown, no blue throne, no shadow hand on the law we own. America, wake up, look 'em in the eyes. Don't let the machine decide. 250 candles still burning in the rain. A republic on the sidewalk calling out its name. Keep the court worth keeping, keep the promise alive. Don't let the machine decide.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give this a minute to let everybody in. Welcome to Protect Elections, Demand Democracy. We have a very big crowd tonight. Give us a minute. It takes Zoom like 2 minutes to get everybody out of the waiting room, into the Zoom room, the webinar room. Okay, still coming, still coming. Bear with us. My name is Jill. I'm here with my co-trainer, Zach. Hi, Zach. He's the guy with all the books behind him. Yes, he is very well read. Big brain. Okay, I think we're loaded. Okay, this is exciting. We have hundreds of people joining us tonight. We're really excited. We are States at the Core, and we are launching our Protect Elections, Demand Democracy training. This is a 3-part training we're going to be doing over the next 3 weeks. You're in part 1, so we hope you can join us for part 2 next week and part 3 in 2 weeks. If you can't, don't worry. We're going to do these training all over again, and then all over again, and maybe a 4th time. So plenty of opportunities to join the training, but as you will hear tonight, we think it's a really good idea to start this work and start doing this training now. Welcome everyone. I've been in relaxation mode for about a week, and this is my like hard launch back into work for the summer. You're gonna be right there with me. It's going to be a hard summer. I think we're gonna get a lot of things done. We're going to fight authoritarianism. We are going to win on many fronts this summer and into the fall. We're putting that out into the universe. And we're gonna call today day 1 in our fight to stop election sabotage and interference, nefarious interference. So why Protect Elections, Demand Democracy training? Because we are expecting an onslaught of election sabotage tactics, and we need a movement response. So we're gearing up now to do a lot of work right up into midterm elections. Tonight's agenda is going to cover some high-level things. So authoritarian threats, what are the threats, more specific threats to the midterms, what may they look like? We're going to talk about building a midterm election plan and expanding your community defense network, starting or expanding your community defense network. If you're not already in a community defense network or some sort of rapid response or localized network, that's okay. We're going to talk about how to get started. Okay. Get started. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. Our trainings typically do have some bad actors who come to disrupt or to try to gather information about the attendees. So we keep things pretty locked down. You all can talk to us through the chat and through the Q&A, but you can't talk to each other. That is so that your name and identity are not released to any of the other attendees. So feel free to chat with us. We would love to.
So I just wanted to say, just pausing for a second, their lockdown is because of suggestions that I made for them to lock it down, because we have Tori the troll that gets some. So I just wanted to revel in this a little bit and share that gloating a little bit with you guys. All right, let's continue.
Love to hear where you're joining us from. Don't tell us your exact address, just tell us the town or city that you're joining us from. I think I looked over the registration. We had over 700 folks registered, and we'll probably get more than half of that tonight. I think probably people from all over the country are here. We'll take a look at the chat in a few moments. Please no recording or transcription. We don't record. Most of our trainings are not recorded. This training is not recorded.
We do not record these calls. Just to be clear, everyone, we don't record these Zoom calls. Totally not recording, though.
Oh, no.
I just want to note, Colorado, okay. California, Minneapolis, Georgia, Chicago. Hi, Chicago folks. San Diego, Texas, Connecticut. My hometown. I see my hometown is here. Hi, y'all. St. Paul, Richmond, Virginia. Hi, Richmond. Okay, this is great. We really do. Okay, this is great. We really do have folks from all over. Lots of folks coming in from Ohio, Tennessee, Seattle, New York City. Oh, this is great. Okay, we're so glad you're here. I want to start with something, I've been reading up. ICE shot and killed a person in Houston yesterday morning. We've been hearing there's been a major uptick in enforcement. In many ways, ICE enforcement never really died down. It just changed after the incursion into Minneapolis and St. Paul. So some of the work we're going to discuss today is closely related to a lot of the work that you all did to document ICE and that hundreds of communities have been doing for the last several months. So we just want to reiterate that as the mass deportation machine sort of continues these violent enforcement tactics, a reminder to continue documenting abuses, continue documenting any federal enforcement or any law enforcement that you can, and to keep yourself safe during any encounters with law enforcement. We've done lots of ICE Watch training. This is not an ICE Watch training. We're not going to cover all of that documentation pieces. But just a quick reminder that, as always, understand your own rights. It's the best way to protect yourself and to protect other people's rights. Stacks trainings are all rooted in nonviolence and no physical interference. Okay, my lawyers are also very happy that I just said that. Okay, so we're here to talk about the midterm elections, what we can expect in the coming months, and what we can do about nefarious efforts to interfere in our elections. But first, I want to name that the news we're hearing is pretty overwhelming. And the headlines, at least for me, on most days, make it seem as if there isn't much we can do about election interference or sabotage.
So before you see that clip, I want to say something because it's going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I hope you heard this correctly, and this is why this is so important. These are the people that helped with ICE Watch. They did the training of how to watch ICE. Remember how we were driving around in fake cars and giving them locations? We had pulled all their data from Harvard. Obviously, I have access to their data. That little fat guy that you saw on the AI is one of my AI personas. So I actually go with my face and I look like a real person and I have a real identity. That was a very old persona that I used, that guy. Just so you understand how I operate and what we do all day, right? Because we work nonstop, right? Nonstop. And so I'm kind of glad that the guy that I'm dating is working all the time because he builds homes for a living. So I don't see him much. And so that's good because I get to work. So this is key for all of you to listen to, that the same people that put our federal law enforcement in a predicament are the ones that are doing elections. And it's exactly what I said. The No Kings protest evolved into ICE Watch, and now it's going into elections. And get this, it used to be that the Sunrise Movement was at the center and forward. Now they're in the back doing all the, collating. Now, the key thing here is this organization specifically is the reason I wrote Article 3 yesterday, which is very important for the Nebraska Attorney General. You're going to hear them talk about it. You're going to hear them talking about their financials. You're going to hear them talking about what they can and can't do. But the reason that the Nebraska Attorney General is going after the Hopeful Fund is because, one, they had dark foreign money. It's Chinese. I'm telling you this now. But on top of that, they actually operated and funded things that disrupted elections that they're denying. Well, here we have it clear. How about that? So we just gave the Nebraska Attorney General what he needs. All right, let's continue their video.
I've been here.
Look at this. ICE Watch protests. Now, Election Watch. The same organizers, AFAL-CIO confirmed it. What do they know?
mailers or signs that, spread false information. And then, of course, there's the really hard thing to get a handle on, which is AI videos or robocalls or viral narratives or videos about false changes in voting rules or violence at the polls. So this could sort of show up in many different ways, the atmospheric threats. And in later trainings, we're going to go through some scenarios with you all so you can spot some of these atmospheric threats. Physical, that means agitators and intimidating voters. Maybe most we're expecting maybe some non-state agitators, right? That means they're not ICE agents or National Guard, but people who are showing up who consider themselves influencers or YouTube sort of MAGA celebrities. They may be Proud Boys or Patriot Front or another group, right? Political violence and protests at vote counting locations could also be part of the physical threats. And then, of course, I think something that lots of us have discussed is the potential for ICE activity or federal enforcement activity near the polls. Okay, technical threats. This is lots of what the headlines are about: passing proof of citizenship requirements, moving, closing polling locations, ballot seizures, or interference with counting. This is by no means an exhaustive list. I'm glad I got that word out. It is really just like a few examples of what we might see in some of these categories. Okay, like we said, because it's going to take more than lawsuits, policy, official or legislative fixes, we as community members need to build responses. So we're going to get into a little bit more about how to do that in just a few moments. Zach made me put this slide up because he wants you to know that we face a movement threat and we need a movement response. Okay. You all, many of you have built plans to respond to ICE. You've built networks. You've built communication systems, right? You know how to document to support those responses, right? And we're here tonight asking you to push a little bit further, right? Beyond that rapid response to ICE incursions, right? To build additional organizing goals that take on the threat to elections. We like to use the defend and demand adage or system, right? This tells us that a movement response requires a defense of the current electoral system to block the authoritarian movement from gaining more ground, right? That's a must. You have to stop the authoritarian movement from gaining more ground. But we need more than a technocratic response and more than the return to a prior status quo. We aren't defending to go back to what was. We're going to protect the process of choosing our leaders while avoiding the trap of defending a malfunctioning system, right? Our demand is for a more robust democracy. Okay. The final thing I'm going to say tonight, well, actually, I'm going to come back later and say a couple other things, but not really anything too juicy. So this is the last thing I'm going to say tonight. Do this now. Let's get started now. Let's not wait for a crisis. Let's not wait till some awful, county level or local official is messing with your elections or removing people from the voter rolls, or a sheriff is seizing ballots in your county, right? Let's start our plans now so we're ready with those community responses when they're needed. Okay, that was my bit, y'all. I'm going to turn it over to Zach, who's going to do the harder part of this training, which is to tell you how to build that plan.
So we're calling this the midterm action plan. So thinking about how you are thinking about and orienting your group, your community group, your mobilization group, your rapid response group, whatever, however you kind of name your formation, and thinking about the election and how are we going to take action together to inform our neighbors to protect our elections and demand something a bit more. And this is thinking about the plan, not to solve the whole problem all across the country, but how you and your community can think about protecting your ballot box, your community around the election. Some of these questions might be really simple, really quick answers. Some you might need to do some additional research for. Really, it's if you are really got a big question mark about how do I get involved, right? This is a place to start. If you're already moving and getting forward, hopefully this is still helpful you to get to the next step for you as well. I want to hit to the next slide. And I think the most important part is that we're talking about, like, we are sitting here in July and thinking about elections that are 3 months away. And I think if we're talking about how do we actually build a movement response, is that we need to get in motion. We need to be moving. I think about in Minneapolis as a response and a movement around the response to Metro Surge. There were already parents organizing, getting ready to support a teacher strike. And that was already in motion. And because they were already in motion, organizing and talking to one another, they were able to pivot to think about more concretely the work of protecting their neighbors from the violence and chaos of ICE in their cities. And so we really want to think about doing this action plan, mapping this out now to get ourselves in conversation with our neighbors about how we're going to inform and protect one another, and doing that work now to get in motion as crises come, as we see new threats evolve. So we're already in motion, already making those connections with one another to be able to respond more effectively. This is also a tool and a tactic to grow our community defense networks or your formations. Maybe you don't call it a community defense network, maybe you call it a rapid response group, but how are you working with your neighbors to grow? We've heard folks taking on flock cameras or 287G agreements or detention centers or any number of other issues that are part of goals that you're building. And how are you thinking about your midterm action plan as part of a larger contingency to build that goal? And how are you working backwards, maybe from election day or the day after, think about how your plan works together. To really think about your fight is not just the one looking down at the ground, but is this kind of larger threat to push back against an authoritarian movement. Well, the first thing you're going to do is research. What is on the ballot? Who is on the ballot? Are there folks who are captured by the authoritarian movement that would do a lot of harm to our communities that are on a ballot? So once we've done a little bit of research, we're thinking about what are some upcoming threats. Is there a Secretary of State who is cutting the voting rolls? And that we need to think about that. Is there a prominent YouTuber that is in the area who is likely to spread mis and disinformation about the election? Maybe there is we know that there is a sheriff's race that is coming up, and that'll have a lot of effect on whether or not they sign or reject a 287G agreement. And we're kind of seeing the pieces and the threats that are coming up in the election. So then we want to decide how we're going to have impact. So we want to figure out what does the community need and what can you do about it. There are others in the community that are already moving forward. Maybe they're at the state level. Maybe there are other resources that exist. But there might not be a set of folks organizing to thinking about different polling locations to monitor their polls, to document around there in case anything would happen during or around election day. And so you say, well, hey, this is my area of impact. This is where we as neighbors can have an area of impact. How are we working and building a plan to organize our neighbors to have that kind of impact? Then we want to build your map. You want to design your map, right? Then you want to think about what is the action plan to do this. So we want to think about how you are designing your map. Because we want to make sure that our neighbors are getting informed. People in our community have the information that they need. That's who and what's on the ballot. That is if there is a local election denier or there are news about people being purged from the voter rolls. Democracy is not a spectator sport. We are the ones that need to be getting engaged. And this is thinking about us as neighbors, taking ownership and responsibility for saying, well, this is a threat to our election. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to inform each other about what is happening and to make sure we can demand something better? So you started to think about, okay, cool. Like we want to have, I want to do a neighborhood map. I want to have an action plan. I want to orient my neighborhood to the elections. But to do this work, we want to do this work in community. And so we talk about this as a community defense network. This is just a fancy name and a definition we give to a diverse set of lots of different frameworks that is able to think about what is the movement response? What is the kind of place that anybody in our neighborhood can get engaged? It's kind of the network that exists amongst and through different nonprofits, different community organizations. What is the kind of meshed version of our community, and how do we think about doing that work together? Resist election sabotage efforts to resist authoritarian movements that would divide our communities, that would separate our communities, that would steal the voice of our communities. And so this is the structure we think about how you might move a neighborhood map together. The creativity that's possible from you all about how to think about identifying threats and taking action to prevent them. And again, now is the time to start. You're not going to be perfect, right? Like I think that's the key here, right? We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But so there's a link in the QR code there to our Substack to sign up for other trainings, and then we're going to continue to offer these throughout the summer as well. So if next Wednesday you're going to be able to miss, don't worry. There's going to be some more opportunities. And then I think it's
okay.
back to you, Jill.
Yeah, we're gonna get to Q&A in a minute.
Before she starts talking, here's what I'm going to tell you. When we were watching The Summer of Love with George Floyd, we had observed the same discussions. Now, while they preach no violence, in the breakout rooms, they have specific teams discussing certain ways of getting things done. Now, she'll get into a few things that you'll understand where I'm going with this. As a nonprofit, which they're not registered, they're just piggybacking off of Hopewell, which is what the Nebraska Attorney General is pursuing right now, which is funded by Arabella investors, and they have a lot of foreign money that has not been disclosed. This group is one of many groups they give money to. In fact, when I was doing my homework on it, with Mondmani, right, and Letitia James, the same organization, the same NGO had funded $185,000 to New York City prior to unrest and protests, the toilets that had cement in them. This is all of them. What they do is they have like a core community that focuses on certain things. So we've got your aging people that are looking into like climate change, but they pivot into elections because elections have to do with climate change, if you catch what I'm saying. And so they are now telling people how to pivot, how to map people out. They're clearly saying it that you should go after election deniers. But then they're also going to tell you that they're not really doing any C4 work. All of this is C4 work. They're targeting our law enforcement, which they also said we should be ready for, what ICE is going to be doing during the elections too. Remember, the AFL-CIO had a whole document of what was going to happen. Okay. And this is why it was important that I wrote part 1 and part 2 of my article in regards to the House and Senate, because the House, we're losing. Like, I don't give a shit what anybody says. We are losing. They've already taken it. Okay. Senate, we can actually lose that and get to 50-50. Now, at the end of tonight's show, I'll give you a solution. It's not a very easy solution, but it's the only one that'll keep our country safe. And not so much from electing or having people selected. It's to make sure that we don't have a bloodbath in our country. And this is where they want to take it to. They're extremely dangerous and operating out in the open. They're extremely careful in these big groups because there were hundreds and hundreds of people in here. And there were a couple of them because there were so many of these training groups going on with the different areas, right? Like I pay and I watch Jim Acosta. Let me tell you today what I saw. I saw, the Maryland, protesters out there promoting, hey, this is how you can do some protests. Join us. I'm all over Blue Sky. I feel like slitting my wrists every time I'm on there because I'm like, I actually feel sorry for them. The majority of these people actually think they're doing good, okay? Or they think they're sticking it to the man, and when you're younger, and like someone pointed out, it's like they're talking to teenagers. They're all really dumb. But I want you to understand how they're operating right now, because this is how a very good war happens. You have a lot of different cells that operate remotely, and then they all join together. And they pivot very easily. It was almost like Doge, which was the Federal Workers Against Doge is now Federal Workers Alliance for Democracy, which I also filed an IRS filing. Hopefully that'll give you some retirement, right? Which in that filing, I found that, a big company that's also linked to Gavin Newsom, by the way, it was called the Oil and Gas Network. They were funding them to help federal workers. That has nothing to do with oil and gas. That is a clean cut fucking case, period. They even gave the banking numbers. They gave the routing numbers. They gave, here's how you can give us some stock for money and call them and shit, right? When you're a nonprofit, if I'm like apparently what Oil and Gas Network say, they say we investigate the climate impact from fracking and oils, right? Then why the fuck are you fronting as a 501c3 for a group of people that are fighting Doge, and now they're fighting anyone that's trying to get into office? And why is 98% of your shit going to C4s? Again, this is fraud, right? Fiscal fraud. Okay. This is extremely important. And I know all of you are seeing these atrocious things they're saying. And some of you are like, oh, they're all idiots. They're very fucking smart because they are half a million strong in just the chit chat stage. Wait till we get closer to elections as they're pumping our inflation's like sky high. We can't afford shit. Our gas is crazy, right? This is going to be very easy. President Trump, obviously, I'm sure, is looking how to minimize the fiscal harm that we have as people going into the elections, which is right before Christmas, too. Because these people are very radical and they believe that this is just it. This is it. They're extremely dangerous. And also one thing I wanted to note for all of you out there that may actually care, you should look out for deputy voters, like voter access directors, deputy voter access directors. And you'll see why, because see, Ohio, I've said this before, as goes Ohio, so does the nation, right? We have the shittiest elections right now. We are stuck as a state to pick between Vivek, fuck that, and Amy Acton, who was the first person to lock down a whole state and put out all of these, mandates. Little Miss Pepfar herself. We've got fuck all candidates. I mean, if someone was to approach me and say, I want to run you, Tori, I would run like a thoroughbred. And I've lost some weight, so I can actually run now. This is terrible. I mean, even for JD Vance's seat, we have to pick Houston. Houston, that's second to Governor DeWine. The fuck out of here. This is all we got? This is all Ohio has? No, it's because when I ran, they made it so nobody else can ever run. That was the point. That was the point. Like, I actually thought of tapping Brad Parscale and saying, yo, run me. But he's running Vivek's campaign. Oh, wait. Do you guys know that? You should. I should make that known. That Brad Pascal ran Cornyn's campaign and he's running Vivek's campaign. FYI, because I see a lot of stuff coming out on Brad online. I'm just letting you guys know because he's going in for Israeli propaganda. So anyone listening to this that, is worried about Ohio, I'm up and I would slay that shit. Because I don't need notes and I don't need people around me to get the work done. But having said that, wait till you see the Ohio training. Now that shit is crazy, and they give you details how they've already penetrated you. This is why I was so adamant of how important it was for people to see it. But for some reason, we had big influencer machines, right, come out and say no King's protest is funded by Soros. And what was it that Data Republican did right after I put out a call saying, oh, look at what they're doing. Then you have those idiots like Cam Higby putting out secret chat. Look at me, I'm all squirrely. Bitch, nobody cares about the Ice Watch. They're training people for elections. You don't see it. I do because I've been doing this for 10 years. And what you're doing is confusing the population with facts that have no basis. So, I mean, what can I do at this point? The only thing I can do is cry about it, bitch about it, but I'm going to say it straight. We are so screwed right now. And hence why I pretty much have zero time to do anything. Absolutely anything. Constantly recording, constantly watching, constantly correlating. And I'm writing as much as I can to put that on paper for prosecution. That's what I've been doing, documenting the record, because that's all I can do. Because unfortunately, our media has been captured. Unfortunately, our media has been, well, now they're upset because they don't have money and, no one's going to these stupid touring events, right? And they feel like no one's listening to them. It's because they have zero substance to provide other than sensationalism. And let me tell you about secret squirrely things. Like Benny Johnson, like a little faggot he is. He's up there, oh my God, Trump is like locked down and stuff. And he's in the Situation Room. And it's like, shut up. Like, why? How is that news? Why don't you talk about what's going on at the Strait of Hormuz? Read my article from months ago to tell you what's going on right now. Because I said it months ago and on my show. Why not talk about the infiltration we have in Cuba, in Central America with the Chinese? Oh, no. We should talk about Candace Owens. We should talk about who looks ugly. And we should talk about how they're slaying, but they're not telling you what they're slaying. Okay? This is where we're at as a populace right now. We are putting our eggs in that basket, and then someone's like, well, Joe Rogan, his agent is from CAA. Ever seen my documentary, Enjoy the Show? I mean, Central Casting CAA. People really need to pay attention to what these people are saying. I know it's uncomfortable listening to them. I'm telling you, I should have like a bunch of marks slitting my wrists on Blue Sky and watching shit on Substack, which they own, by the way. I find it really weird. I'm publishing even more and I had like maybe like a few hundred subscribers and like what is it, like an eighth of that, like less than 100 are paid and they're all leaving. And I'm like, oh my God, the bots did this to make it look, obviously it's a lefty site, but it's whatever. I try to reach out to the left too, many, many times, even in these groups. I'll go in with another identity and kind of just, start the conversation and say, maybe it isn't like this. Some of them just boot you. Others, you can change one heart at a time. And that's very important that we do that. So going forward for the next like 5-10 minutes that she's talking, it's 10 minutes exactly. I want you guys to listen carefully to what she's going to say now, because this is really, really important, because this is where you can see the crime, but you can also see why I had so hard gone after Act Blue before, social media influencers jumped in on the train, interviewing people and shit. You'll understand why I said AI and China are the biggest issue and the biggest threat to our country. You'll understand all these things slowly. I'm saying like, the Stop ICE movement was a progression from the No Kings protests where they all found solidarity together. And with Ice Watch, they moved it that way. The Free Palestine, all these people joined in on that. And now they're moving into elections. This was all a training ground. 1, 2, 3. I saw this happen with the Sunrise Movement. They were organized, but they didn't have targeted funding. Now they got smarter by the failures that happened, and by the court systems, and by your media, and by your influencers. If you notice, she said, "Oh, you might see social media influencers." She's talking about Nick Shirley. She's talking about Jake Lang. I'm going to guarantee you that motherfucker's going to be there. I mean, where's Q Shaman, or shall I say Climate Shaman, that all of you hated me for saying he's an asset? I was right again. Jake Lang, I was right again. And I'm not pointing it out to toot my own horn. I don't need anyone's validation. I'm trying to show you how your minds as people, even though the truth is right in front of you, you dismiss it because the masses tell you different. Where the fuck are these masses? What are they telling you now? And what you don't seem to and I don't think I'm making this point put across carefully. When I watch things on Blue Sky, when I watch these videos, I don't think more than maybe 5 to 8% actually know that this is foreign funded, and that they're actually operating for a foreign nation with the goal to dismantle our nation from within. Everybody else seems to be like, oh, we have all this support. And the support, no one's asking where the money is coming from. They're committing treason without knowing, which I'm going to tell you this, like out of 100 people, let's say, I think about 55 of them would totally be mortified and probably have PTSD from ever doing anything again, organizing anything with their community, because they were duped. They actually thought that they had support from organizations, people. And then when they find out it's like the Chinese, well, it's game over, right? It's game over. Speaking of the Chinese, I tried to actually create a video for the voiceover I did for my What If series, which we'll go over. And none of the AIs would allow me to even think or even remotely be able to do anything with China. Like, it's off limits. But you could do whatever you want to Jesus, a little bit of Muhammad. Can't touch the Jews or the Chinese, though. Okay, just wanted to put that out there. So now listen carefully to what she says, because this is the part that your Nebraska, for those of you, Nebraska Attorney General, and for our DOJ would like to hear.
We have learned our lesson from some of our previous trainings, which sometimes stretch to 90 minutes. Yeah, I know. So we broke this into 3 parts, right? But each training is probably about an hour, maybe a little more, but probably about an hour, just to keep it manageable for everybody. Just want to shout out some folks from Cincinnati, some folks from Wisconsin, some of our friends in Washington State who are here, who've already started their planning, have put some great things in the chat to us that hopefully we'll be able to share next week as some examples of how people are responding around the country, or starting to build out their plans. So we have nothing to sell. Unfortunately, we are not even good enough capitalists to have something to sell. All we have to sell is essentially a pitiful request for donations whenever we do these trainings. So here it is. We are a small crew of people. We have, as we like to say, several 100 million more people to train. We're only at about 50,000 people so far in the last 10 months. But you guys have upped our numbers a little bit. The numbers are less important than the impact. And the impact lives with all of you. So if you have a few nickels in your piggy bank and you like the training and you think it's valuable and you'd like to throw a few nickels our way, we will not turn down any donations. But the real gift for us is your time and engagement. So remember that. Okay.
What are some strategies that you can really think about for integrating some local coalitional work? So there's people that are already doing stuff, and then there's some like neighborhood groups that are meeting. How might you think about, Jill, like working with folks that are already kind of moving along, maybe have an organization, and some of the neighborhood groups to think about how you might orient to the election?
Quick caveat, that was my question. And that was something that I posted to leadership like a couple weeks ago, that I said that we need to have people thinking that are coming from other protest groups that are talking about like free Palestine, immigration, climate, single moms, free housing, free food, all that shit. How do we bring them together? Now listen to what she says.
Well, I will say that I think you don't have to like merge into one big group. What I think is really valuable is to have some layers. So if you have other groups that are working in like some respect, just keep some open dialogue going. Make sure there's some coordination, however loose it is. I think we are in an era, okay, this might be deeply unpopular with some people. I think we're in an era where we don't have to stay in our lanes. We don't have to, we should not be too sensitive about stepping on other people's toes. I do think, yes, someone is asking for a 50C3 for a donation. Yes, we are 50C3. 3C, C3. So even though we're talking about elections, we don't do any C4 work. That's our little disclaimer. So you won't.
But everything they said is C4 work. Target candidates that are election deniers, get with other groups, watch ICE, report, stop them from being able to intervene, lobby, right, against the election deniers. It's total C4 work. But they're not a 501c3. I looked at it. If you read my article, part 3 that I put up last night, that's why I said you should read it before you watch this. You'll see how they're not. They're just a stand-in. I can say that I'm a 501c3 and have a big fucking company behind me. And if you go to their website at the bottom, it tells you who the 501c3 is. They're not. They're just a name only. They're just an organization, and that's all they have to do. So that's basically what they do. And this is how they use NGO money that's been washed. So what you call gray money, right? Gray. That comes in through them, through grants, because they're doing shit. So this is illegal. And like I said, the oil and gas network with the federal workers against Doge, that's like clean cut illegal. They're not even talking about oil and gas. What does Hopewell do? I don't know. You should look into that. I have done my homework, but unfortunately people don't do their homework. Have you seen the Roy Neville Singham stuff that I put out? Wait till you see number 7. Tonight it's dropping. It's all about Cuba. You know, Code Pink. This is why I kept writing. What's her name? Another infiltrator with Cassandra Fairbanks, now McDonald, right? Work for big league politics. She was part of Code Pink. I don't hear anything. Cassandra Fairbanks is part of Code Pink. Now she says she's not. The fuck she isn't. All right, let's continue.
I was talking about any candidates at all on these trainings. So yeah, I'm in a situation where like, and lots of other people are, you know, especially if you're in like a dense urban area, or if there's a lot of sort of advocacy capacity in your area. Lots of places don't have a lot of organizing capacity or paid organizers. Some places have an abundance. If you're in a place where you have an abundance, be extra careful about communicating what you're doing, right? But I also think don't wait for other people to either like come on board, right? Or necessarily expect institutions to move faster or more assertively than some of your community formations. What we have found is that the community formations that are largely made up of volunteers and people who aren't being paid are able to move a lot faster. So keep that in mind. Did that sort of answer the question?
Yeah, and I think, you know, there might be something that different folks can do in different ways. I mean, Jill mentioned how Stack is a 501c3. There are certain things that nonprofits can and can't do. And then there are certain things that a group of neighbors, there's very limited limitations on what you and exercising your First Amendment right as a group of neighbors that don't have an official nonprofit are able to say and do in your communities. And there are ways of which that, like, thinking about your impact, thinking about your role, thinking about what you're able to do in your communities. There might not be folks who are thinking about researching some of the other non-state election deniers in your area places.
I actually think the bigger cities can be it can be a little bit harder to figure out what your role is and what your plan is potentially. There's obviously, you know, in denser places, there's more voters to educate and engage. However, you may have a lot more infrastructure to respond to election threats, and you have a bigger media landscape. So it can be just a little more complex, I think, in cities or, you know, with more population density. That said, I think you can, like, so if you're in a city and you're working in a neighborhood level, think about sort of laddering up and out, right? So you may not have like very severe election interference or sabotage that affects your specific neighborhood, because your neighborhood may be like one tiny little chunk of a county. Or, you know, the boundaries of election sabotage may feel a little vague for your neighborhood in a city. So definitely coordinate with other community defense networks around you, and see if you can get connected to some of the, like, I would say, more official election protection infrastructure for your county or your state or your section of the state. Not necessarily to coordinate all your activities, but so that you can hear about like what research they have. They may have specific research that you could utilize for your map. And you may find some alignment, right? In terms of when a state level response is moving to some sort of election sabotage, how the community can show up in a really robust way. Okay. Suburbs, rural areas, small towns, counties where people are spread out a little bit, right? This, and you probably won't have as much organizing support to, you know, paid organizers to lean on potentially for capacity. So thinking about your rural area as actually really, really key in this fight, even if you feel like maybe you have an election denier, maybe you have someone, I'm thinking about a certain county in a certain state recently where the county clerk was just removing people from the voter rolls. Totally illegal to do that, right? The state, you know, it was reported to the Board of Elections, and there, you know, then there was a response to stop the activity and also remove this person's access to the voter rolls.
Do the damn thing. We're going to spend a little bit more time next week kind of talking about strategies, talking about narrative strategies, organizing strategies, and how are you thinking about orienting your neighborhood map, your work to the elections and defending these different and varied threats.
I just want to note, there was a question about security. It comes up a lot. So security for groups that are taking up election protection work. I think we actually have a little one-pager cheat sheet that might be helpful. So I'm going to see if we can add that to the email. It's going to go out with a slide deck. I think I forgot to tell you this earlier. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I donate so that way I can have a track record.
I can't stop laughing.
All I wanna say, ain't unafraid.
So China, China, China fever, China, China, China fever, China, China, China fever. They poisoned our voter rolls for over a decade, but there's a lot more to that. So, I kind of thought that maybe, which one is this? Kind of thought that maybe we should, let me get into that. Give me a second. Let me pull it up. All right, let's do this. Okay, let's share my screen. And I'm going to let you guys listen to the article. People don't read anymore, and that's the only thing we can really do right now is actually read. It's important that we do, because there's so much more we can do when we read. So let's get to listening to, oh, is it mine? I think it's my article voiceover. Or you know what? You guys have me here. Why should you have my digital one? I can read it to you. So if I'm going to read it to you, I think it's important that you watch this. Give me a second. There we go. So now you're going to watch Ohio. And the reason I say Ohio is because Nathan Kike, that you're going to see, just so you know, is actually a member of the Ohio Democratic Party. And he is the Deputy Voter Access Director. And he was running the whole call. So, you guys really need to see this. Please enjoy this. Where is it? What happened? Oh, that's why it happened. There we go. Here we go.
Hi, Beth. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Nathan. I know I'm a little early. I just wanted to check and make sure everything was working.
Yeah, that's why I'm on here early too. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, everything sounds good.
Oh, good.
I'll just bustle around for a bit.
Sure.
Hey, Nathan, do you know how long you expect the training to last?
No longer than an hour.
Beautiful. Okay, that's
Yeah.
perfect. That's what I figured. I think that's what you told me.
Yep.
Thanks.
It also depends how many questions are at the end, but feel free to jump off if it's running over time.
Thank you.
Of course.
So I just talked.
Welcome in, everyone. I did drop in the chat. If you want to, go ahead and drop where you're calling in from. as well as something you're excited for in this election. I'm joining everyone from Columbus.
I hope you guys are looking up Nathan, Mr. part of the Ohio Democratic Party and deputy voting director. I hope you guys are all looking at him. I hope the FBI is looking at him. I hope that the Ohio Republican Party is looking at him. I hope that the Secretary of State is looking at him. I hope that the governor is looking at him. I hope that DHS is looking at him. Oh, remember, he's in charge of putting all the poll workers. I hope you're paying attention. This is just Ohio. This is happening across the nation in multiple cities, multiple counties, and no one is paying attention.
You're muted, Nathan.
Talking shit about how little
There you go.
I wasn't saying
and how
anything
much
just
we hate
yet.
Israel and we love
But
it.
There you go.
people joining us from Massachusetts. That's super exciting.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. And not only are they organized, they're funded by China. Okay? Funded by China. Indirectly funded by China. Because, like Tracy Bean said, she wasn't funded by USAID because by the time the money got to her, it wasn't from the State Department. So they're like, we don't get funded by China because the time the money gets to us, it wasn't from China directly. You see? You see the point here? Was it Data Republican that came out and said, don't say shit like that about people, but it's true. So we're gonna like refuse the facts because you don't like the story that comes out of the facts. Okay. Where are the damn journalists in Ohio, though, to talk about this? Like, is it okay because they're Democrats? These are the poll watchers. These are the poll observers. These are the people that are beginning to be carrying your ballots, carrying the thumb drives, putting out the voter totals. They're going to be collecting all the mail ballots. These are the motherfuckers that they've been planning this for 2 years. And I said it. And we had big ass fucking influencers sit there and tell you it's only about no kings. While I was saying, no, it's bigger than that. They're infiltrating everything. And for some reason, those voices were boosted, almost like they wanted it to happen, which, you know, in all fairness, based on the solution I have, this is a pretty good segue. And I get it. Possibly why I was suppressed, but it also shows how everybody else is a fucking clown. How about that? How about that?
As they come through, everyone hear me and see my screen okay? Great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. This is our Poll Observer training course. A little bit about what we're going to be going over tonight includes a little introduction of our team, an introduction to our voter access program, some goals of this training, as well as goals of our poll observing program. What exactly is voter access? Some important changes to our voting landscape, including some new legislation that has increased the barriers for everyone to have their voice heard at the ballot box. And then we're going to get into what the poll observer role exactly is, how to report things, kind of what to look out for and report, as well as going over our software, LBJ, which you'll be using on election day and early vote if you help out with that to actually send in those reports, and then any final details, and then we'll wrap it up with any questions. Feel free to drop questions in the chat and we will get to them as they come through. And if you have any super important questions, go ahead and raise your hand. I can't see all of you guys too much, but it will make it sound so we can stop for that. So who exactly is the voter access staff here at the Ohio Coordinated? Well, we have Jasmine Moore, our director. You can wave to her if she's on the call. The deputies are me and Jay. We also have some voter access fellows. Right now we have Jesus down in Columbus, but we're going to be growing our team very soon. And we also have our deputy data director, Jordan. So some of the goals of today's training is to know the role of a poll observer. I also want you to be prepared to protect
I missed
the
that.
vote.
Hold on. I needed to tell you. Let me go back. Hold on. Do you see? Oh, let's fast forward. Right there. Jordan Wei. He's Chinese. He's in charge of the data of voter access. Are you seeing this? You should look up who Jordan Wei is. Okay. And maybe you should look on the Wayback Machine where we've archived his profile. Okay. Because these are really important things that no one is looking at because they're too busy trying to be first and saying shit. And what about Nathan Kike? Look at his picture. Can you see his picture? Yes. And like Sai said, oh soy. But again, what did I say here? Look at this guy, Jordan Wei, Deputy Data Director for Voter Access. Okay? This is happening nationwide. They funded 500,000 people. Like the other chick said, we got 700,000 more to go because she wants to be on top. The more one organization signs people up, the better. I mean, they were very effective with Letitia James. Oh, yeah. Because that's the same organization that did the Letitia stuff. Oh, but I thought they were Ice Watch. Well, before that, they were climate. Before that, they were about getting people elected, which means that the Hopewell Fund was also funding C4 activities before. I'm pretty sure that all of you should send this to your Nebraska Attorney General, who is currently suing, and they're in discovery right now. I can help him with the questions. Been in their freaking networks for 10 years. I could give you all the fucking answers. And the DAFs, Mr. Attorney General. Oh, wait till you see the stock transfers. Oh, dear, oh, dear. You should look at the OGAM paperwork that I filed. You know, their paperwork in regards to how you donate DAFs is very shady. Unless I gave an account number, they would not provide it. So people need to send this to the Nebraska AG, who is currently in discovery with the 501c3 that is backing organizations like this, including this Ohio thing. So we're in discovery and this needs to go there. So you, the people, can make it happen and let's get shit done. Because I'm going to tell you this. The only way we can save our republic is to not have elections. Let's continue.
Voter access fellows. Right now we have Jesus down in Columbus, but we're going to be growing our team very soon. And we also have our deputy data director, Jordan. So some of the goals of today's training is to know the role of a poll observer. I also want you to be prepared to protect the vote when you're out observing the polls and what to look out for, and also really understand how to report those incidents. Our goals on election day as the voter protection team are to report any incidents that we see. We want to maximize the regular amount of ballots cast legitimately. We also want to be helpful to the election officials at our locations. And we also want to report any information for potential litigation. You will be receiving shortly, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, a poll observer manual. This will be one of the most important resources that is available and our friends over at Ohio Promote the Vote will be updating this and get it out shortly. But it's really a great handbook and resource to use beforehand and during election day if you have any questions. The great part of it is also going to be a digital document, so you can have it on your phone or tablet when you're at the polling location. And if you need to quickly look for a reference, you can use Control F or search the document. And of course, if you have any questions after reading the manual, you can email any one of us. Jasmine's email is on the slides, but the email I sent you yesterday, you now have my email address, so feel free to email me as well. So the term voter access is really a rebrand of the term voter protection. You might have been helping out with campaigns in the past and heard of the voter protection team or VoPro. We're still doing the same thing, and we're working to ensure that all of our eligible supporters are able to safely cast their ballot and have it counted on election day. Our voter access team also manages our county Board of Election liaison program, our poll observer program, which is all of you, and our voter assistance hotline. We're also responsible for educating staff, volunteers, and voters on the laws and regulations regarding registering to vote and voting itself. Now you might be asking, why do we need voter access? Well, over the years, the laws around voting have changed a lot, and it often creates more hurdles for voters to overcome, especially those in marginalized communities. They'll face extra barriers to voting. In Ohio, there's been several changes to voting laws recently, including House Bill 458, Senate Bill 293, and more on the way with the Senate Joint Resolution 10 and House Bill 472. Now, voter access doesn't just include us at the coordinated campaign. It does include the government at the state and local level. It includes our friends over at Ohio Promote the Vote. Of course, it includes us, though, as the coordinated campaign and you guys. The boiler rooms, our polling locations, and our hotline operators are all part of the voter access team, and they also help out voters anytime they need it. So at the state and local level, we have our Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, and his Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Christopher Burnett. Those are the top two state officials in the Secretary of State's office that oversee the state-run elections. Every county, though, has a board of elections, which is 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, and they elect a director and deputy director. They will always be bipartisan. And there was always 1 Democrat and 1 Republican. And it's based on how a county votes. So if it's a majority Republican county, they'll have a Republican director and a deputy Democratic director. And sometimes they do occasionally switch. However, that's not too often, sadly. And then on election day, we also have our polling locations made up of precinct election officials. And those people are also working in a bipartisan manner. At Ohio Promote the Vote and here at the coordinated campaign, we have Bethany Sanders and Susan Apple as the co-chairs. And then our coordinated campaign, we have Katie Fairchild as our director, Jasmine Moore as our voter access director, and then Jay Smith is one of our deputies as well. He might join us later today, so you get to see him. And then there's also me. And then we also work with all of you guys down here in the boiler rooms. Our volunteers, our local liaisons, our hotline volunteers, and of course, our poll observers. Now, our boiler rooms will be statewide and regional. This will be your personal contact on election day. And it includes voter access, experienced volunteers, and coordinated campaign staff. So we'll be working directly with all of you, as well as sending anything up and down as it is relevant. You will also have a Board of Election liaison. This is an experienced voter access volunteer, and they are working to build long-lasting relationships with the leadership of their county's Board of Election. They'll be actually observing, just like you guys, but they'll be located at the Board of Elections on election day. So they'll kind of be the eyes and ears at the board, kind of overseeing what their staff is doing and hearing from all of their polling locations across the county. And there are quite a few. So some of our large counties can have well over 100 polling locations. So it is like a main center, like a command center almost. On election day, you'll be working alongside the precinct election officials. The head person is called the voting location manager. They may also have a term called like the voting location floor manager or a supervisor. Those members are all part of the leadership team at the location. And then there's also the other workers or the precinct election officials that make up the rest of the team. Now, it's a really good idea to have a good relationship with everyone there, but most importantly, the voting location manager. They'll be able to kind of set how much access you can have on election day as you make your way around the polling location. And they're also in charge of making the call whether or not there has to be a removal. So make sure you have a good relationship with everyone, but also make sure we prioritize that voting location manager. On election day and starting a couple weeks ago, we have our hotline back up and running. So our hotline operators will be staffing the voter assistance hotline, and that hotline will be covered by staff during the slower period. So it is up and running now. If you call, we will answer. It's able to provide answers for voters, and it can provide resources and information like where their polling location is, what kind of ID do they need to bring. And even if it's after hours, any voicemails or texts we receive, we'll get back to within 24 hours. So go ahead and take out your phone or notepad and go ahead and write down this number. You can call or text at any time and we will get back to you. That is 844-OH-I-VOTE or 844-644-8683. And I'll drop in the chat real quick too. But this is a great resource, whether you need it or someone on election day needs it. We'll definitely have lots of operators for election day to help everyone out. Now, our poll observers, you guys will be inside poll observers, which does require you to be a registered Ohio voter and party authorization prior to being in that role. All right, we're going to now head into kind of an overview of what has changed with Ohio voting laws and some good things to note. You might already be familiar with some of it, but we've had changes as recently as a few months ago. So this 2026 election is going to be one of the most important elections in our lifetime, and simply because of the voter access that people will have to the polls or their absentee ballots. There are changes and pressures from the federal government and the state governments, and that will severely impact voting in Ohio. So House Bill 458 became law in early 2023. This ushered in a broad set of restrictive laws, including that new photo ID requirement that became one of the most strict in the entire country. This also shortened the absentee ballot request period, where absentee ballots must be requested now 7 days prior to the election rather than 3. This was also the bill that limited ballot drop boxes down to only 1 per county. And it also shortened the early voting period. It got rid of that Monday before election day. It also shortened the mail-in ballot grace period. However, that has now since that has been completely eliminated since 2023. It also really cut down on how long we have to cure ballots, which are like provisionals on election day, down from 7 days to 4. Now, in 2025, Senate Bill 293 became the law, which eliminated the 4-day grace period for mail-in ballots, which were postmarked by Election Day. It now requires that these ballots are received by the County Board of Election by 7:30 p.m. on Election Day, or when the polls close. This also mandated monthly voter roll maintenance against the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles and Federal Save databases, which look to verify citizenship and has led to the cancellation of registrations if inconsistencies are found across those databases. Under this maintenance, voters will get flagged if inconsistencies are found, and they'll have to show proof of citizenship for their vote to get counted. And in November, Senate Joint Resolution 10 will place a constitutional amendment on our ballots here in Ohio to enshrine that restrictive photo ID into the Ohio Constitution. Now you might be wondering or thinking, now this sounds repetitive, and that's because it is. This is already the law here in Ohio, but once it's in our Constitution, it'll make it more difficult to amend in the future, even as technology changes and which IDs are acceptable changes as well. This also doesn't include a fee-free state ID into the Constitution. And most concerningly, this joint resolution includes ballot language that says there is nothing that requires the legislature to permit voting on any other day other than election day and any other method other than in-person voting, which will open the door to eliminating all other early voting options. And again, this will be on our November ballot. So that's something to look out for if you haven't heard of it yet. Thankfully, we did get a win last month when Mike DeWine vetoed House Bill 472, which would have placed a huge burden on Ohio voters that use mail-in ballots. This bill looked to require all mail-in ballots to be verified with photo ID. But thankfully it was vetoed, so we don't have to worry about it, at least right now. Now, this is a good little chart to look at to see the impact of House Bill 458 when it was passed, creating one of the strictest ID requirements in the whole country. So you can see anything like a bank statement or a paycheck have been eliminated. And in Ohio, you must have a valid unexpired driver's license, a state ID, a US or Ohio military ID, or a US passport. So here's an example of any of the documents that can be used to vote, including an interim ID, which is that paper ID you get when you go to the BMV, and they don't have your plastic card ready just yet. You can use a US passport card, which is just a simplified version of your passport, your military ID or Ohio National Guard ID, a US military dependent ID, or a veteran affairs dependent or department card. One exception to these, though, is the ID does need to be a physical ID. So if you have your driver's license in your Apple Wallet or a digital military ID, that will not be acceptable. So you'll want to bring that physical card with you. Now, because of Senate Bill 293 and the required monthly voter roll maintenance, voters may need to have additional documentation to prove their citizenship or name change. So voters who have been found with income for our out-of-state students, our elderly voters, or anyone without an unexpired photo ID. Just one super important detail now is that all absentee ballots must be returned by 7:30 on election day, because that grace period has been eliminated. And you can return these one of two ways. You can mail it back. So that's a great option because you don't even really have to leave your house. But it must be delivered to the Board of Elections by 7:30 p.m. on election day. So after October 27th, we're recommending that you no longer mail those ballots back. It'd be better to take them in person. The ballot will include a return envelope in the ballot package. However, the postage is not prepaid. So that's another thing to think about. You will have to make arrangements to get postage if you don't have. And remember that Monday before Election Day is no longer open for early vote. And of course, Election Day is November 3rd, and polls will open at 6:30 and close at 7:30. All right, we're going to transition over to the poll observer portion of this training. Let me check the chat real quick. All right, looks like we're ready to go. So poll observers, if this is your first time helping out, we are happy to have you. But poll observers are the eyes and the ears of the campaign inside of key precincts across the state. Observers will monitor the election process without causing disruption to voters or election workers. They may watch all proceedings of precinct election officials at the polls and the counting of ballots at ballot counting sites. Sometimes those sites are at a different location that's not the Board of Elections, but oftentimes they are at the board. And as a poll observer, you're also going to report any potential issues to the campaign, passing along that information and receiving guidance on next steps. That will be like your boiler room contact. So we will be constantly passing up and down information as it becomes available or as you pass it to us. Now, poll observers are appointed. So political parties with candidates on the ballot, a group of 5 or more candidates, or a ballot issue committee can appoint 1 poll observer per voting location. Observers may be at the election day voting locations, early voting locations, and ballot counting places. Only Ohio voters may be poll observers. However, you don't have to be in the county where you are registered to vote. The County Board of Elections must receive notification of the name, address, and location at which you will be serving prior to the deadline. And observers will have to take an oath of office prior to observing on election day, and that will be administered by your precinct election officials. And as a poll observer, you're watching and inspecting. So you may only watch election proceedings, but you can never handle election materials. So you cannot be moving around ballots or other forms at the polling location. You can move freely where ballots are being cast, processed, counted, or recounted, as long as you don't engage in prohibited activities. And Board of Elections may deny observers access to areas where ballots are not being handled. And usually that's not super exciting. It's probably just like a back room. So we don't really care to have access to that, right? Observers may not interfere with election officials running the election. You can have casual conversations with officials during slow times to gather information about the process, but your purpose is to watch. Observers may not enforce the laws or advocate for voters. You can leave the voting area to contact the Board of Elections with concerns, which the board may address at an appropriate time. When it comes to audio and video devices, observers cannot use any electronic or audiovisual recording devices in ways that will disrupt the election, intimidate voters, or violate private secrecy or voter privacy. You can't use cell phones, walkie-talkies, or other communication devices to discuss the election inside the polling place. But as long as you aren't harassing, you can collect information from the posted registration lists. Now, you can use communication devices, including audio and video, if the device does not make noise. Even if it's on vibrate, that's okay. We just can't have phones ringing and other noises being played. And you can only use it to send and receive text messages, emails, or other nonverbal communications. You can't take photos, videos, or record conversations inside the polling location. You can't talk inside the polling location using that device. You don't want to create a disruption, and you don't want to use this device to interfere with the election or intimidate any voters. Now, on election day, observers can't wear any kind of uniform or campaign in any kind of way. So unfortunately, we will have to leave our Sheridan-Amy Acton shirts at home that day. You also can't block voters from reaching or leaving the polling place. You can't disrupt the election, intimidate, harass, or try to influence the voters or precinct election officials. You cannot have a weapon, and you cannot violate ballot secrecy or voter privacy. You also cannot enforce laws and advocate for voters before the PEOs. Like I said earlier, a poll observer can be removed. And while the board must allow observers throughout the election process, they can remove observers who violate Ohio law or Secretary of State directives or who interfere with the election. Now, this comes down to only the voting location managers, directors, deputy directors, and appointing authorities to remove an observer. And law enforcement officials must remove observers when ordered by these officials. And if a poll observer is removed, their certificate of appointment will be taken and returned to the Board of Elections, oftentimes the note about that removal. Now, observers at the precincts on election day, you could be one of many, or you might be the only one. An appointing authority may appoint one observer per precinct on election day. So you might be there with a Republican or a Green Party observer or a ballot measure observer. Observers may also cover multiple precincts, but each precinct may only have one observer from each appointing authority. Precinct observers may be present for 1/2 hour before polls open, or 6 o'clock, until the precinct election officials finish processing the ballots, complete all of their closing tasks, and take the supplies back to the board. Now that appointment notice deadline is 11 days prior to election day. And if it needed to be amended, it'd be 4 p.m. the day before election day. This is the oath that you will be taking, and it will be administered by a precinct election official on election day, so there's no need to memorize it or anything. All right, do we have any questions so far? And if you do, go ahead and drop it into the chat and we can get back to you. If not, we can answer all the questions at the end. All right, a few things to keep in mind. Make sure you're polite and helpful. We are there to help the precinct election officials. If media happens to be at the location, we are not allowed to speak to them. You can dress casual, but neat and professional still. And like I said, we can't wear our Amy Acton and Sherrod Brown t-shirts or buttons, which I know is unfortunate, but we're there to help protect the voter. And so that's something that's also super important. You also want to make sure you have a plan to vote prior to election day, because it's a very real possibility you might not be observing at your home polling location, because we have key locations across the state that we want to target. So whether that's voting early in person or voting by mail, you'll want to make sure you have that plan to vote. Now, inside observers will be recognizing voter intimidation or other barriers that voters face. They will report what they see. They will help resolve the issue, and they will help record anything that they see. If you help out with early voting, you'll get to the polling place, oftentimes the Board of Elections, unless they have an early vote center elsewhere, at 7:30. We do want everyone to be there for the heavy turnout periods. So we would recommend not leaving the location at those times, just because that's when a majority of the voters happen to be there. And on election day, you'll be able to arrive at the polling location 30 minutes before it opens, or at 6 o'clock. And again, there's heavy turnout periods on election day too. So it's usually the rush of people heading to work, on their lunch, or heading home. So we'll want to make sure we're there for those voters. And you are allowed to stay there till 7:30 or when polls close, and then you will be released. All right, we're going to go over our reporting structure. So as you can see, we are all working together. The poll observers' first contact again will be the boiler room. That boiler room can either escalate stuff to the regional boiler room captain, statewide boiler room, or our Board of Election liaison, and take it up to the Board of Elections. So information will be getting passed up and down. You'll be helping to get that information up to us, and then we'll be passing down information as well. It really just depends on kind of what's happening at the polling locations. Now, you will want to confirm that you have arrived at your polling location for the start of your shift, and you'll want to report that to the boiler room. You also want to let them know before you leave your shift. And you'll use Slack to communicate while in the Board of Elections or the polling locations. And if you have to make a call, it's super important that you step outside, just because we can't be making calls inside of the place of voting. If it seems like a super boring day, that's actually a great thing. It means voters are not experiencing a lot of issues. So we do want it to be a boring experience. However, if it's not boring, that is why you're there. You are there to help the voters. You're here to help us in the aftermath of the election get those ballots cured so we can make sure everyone's vote can still count. Now, like I said earlier, we'll be using LBJ to record data and make reports. If any of our experienced folks on the call remember what LBJ is, go ahead and drop it in the chat. It is an acronym that you probably can't guess if you've never done poll observing before. It's a little tricky. But what it means is Lawyers Bound for Justice. This is a voter protection software from the Democratic National Committee that enables us to track and report voting issues on election day and after election day. This is where, again, you'll be reporting things. It will let us track issues. It lets us assign you to a polling location, and it also gives us real-time analytics of how the day is going. So this will help us flag any locations with heavy provisional ballot usage. Now, we want you to report all the incidents, even if you resolve them. So LBJ is a pretty straightforward platform to use. So you can use the LBJ tool, or you can call your boiler room captain if you are having issues. Now we will have 3 different types of reporting. It will depend on the situation on whether you use LBJ, Slack, or make a phone call. On Slack, we'll be using this to communicate while inside of the polling location. Since we can't make phone calls, this is basically secured or encrypted text messaging. And phone calls will be used outside of the polling location if a major event occurs. Now, why would you want to make a phone call? Some things like a power outage that's not restored immediately, an emergency evacuation of the polling location, or if you see voter intimidation. These will all be times that you'll want to make that phone call up to the boiler room. We use LBJ and Slack to communicate. And again, this also preserves data for future campaigns, so we can help see which locations have experienced the most voter suppression or issues with provisional ballots and IDs. Now, you will receive an email invitation. The subject line will be Promote the Vote with LBJ. So you'll want to look out for that in late September or early October before early voting begins. Once you get the invitation, it will invite you to set up an account with LBJ. It just needs some simple information like your name, your cell phone, and your email, a language preference if you have one, and your address. It'll also ask about car access. Now, you can use LBJ on your smartphone, your tablet, or laptop. If you're using a tablet or a computer, I would highly recommend making sure you have Wi-Fi or a hotspot available to you, just because this is a super important tool for reporting throughout the day, and we want to make sure you can actually access the website. But it's just lbj.voting. But again, you'll receive an email with the sign up. In LBJ, you will also receive your assignment in one of the tabs. There's not many tabs either, so it's very straightforward and easy to use, which is great. This is also where you're going to check in on election day. When you need to report an issue, all you do is tap New Issue. It'll bring up a screen. This is kind of what it looks like on our end, so we can kind of see all the issues coming in and whether they were resolved. But this is what it will look like for you. If you're on a phone, it might look a little more condensed, but this is a computer view. So you can kind of see you will want to get the voter's first name and their last name and their phone number. This helped us contact them in case they need to do a ballot here afterwards. You can also report questions in here, and you can add any notes or details as well as a voter's email address. You can also submit these as resolved, but if you submit for follow-up, someone from the boiler room will get back to you. Now, our top reporting priorities are issues around voter ID. We've had a lot of changes, so there's probably going to be a lot of voters that don't have proper identification. So there'll be all things that we want to document. Any voter suppression or intimidation is something we definitely want to report, and it might even include that phone call to the boiler room. Any long lines and supply shortages or overusing of provisional ballots. And again, voters must have a valid, unexpired photo ID or vote. And then you'll want to stay around and observe the packing of all the ballots. You also want to look out for supply shortages. So you can report this incident in the report form on LBJ. So things you want to look out for are things like paper ballot levels, provisional envelopes, pens and pencils, paper canisters, and envelopes for paper ballots. As we approach the end of election, especially with this being a November general, there will be a lot of voters. Technical malfunctions, these machines like to act up, sadly. Any kind of low supplies, any kind of incident that affects, go ahead and take a picture of that QR code.
Whoa, I don't know.
Either. I can hear you though. Okay. If you want.
Mute me back.
Okay. To email me. We'll be happy to get back to you. And don't forget about that quiz. We will be sending that out to you too. And feel free to share any information or feedback you have. Thank you all for attending.
So a word from that neighbor of mine that's in Massachusetts, but she was chiming in. I wanted to read off the question that she had that she was trying. She says, it sounds like we should be roaming inside near voters, getting ballots, and outside observing lines. So this was their first training, right? First training. Does the Secretary of State of Ohio know about this? Possibly. Does he give a fuck? No, because he wants to be your auditor to hide the monies that came in. Remember, he got Zuck bucks, right? Let's not forget Frank LaRose got Zuck bucks, okay? And then they want to make Husted our senator. The fuck? So let me tell you. I'm going to read to you my article now, okay? Because I'm hoping that it comes across right. Because rather than tell you linearly, I thought I could invent a confession just so that you can see how, I don't want to say fucked we are, but yeah. So as you know, on my website, I've launched a what if series. And on that series, I have put my predictive analytics of what's to come. So the one thing is North Korea. Wait for it. But now we're going to talk about this. The way I titled this is What If? Why You Never Caught Me, says China in a confession. So I'm going to be the Chinese person and myself. So I'll try to step in, step out. So I apologize if it looks weird because I'm reading. So, okay. First topic, why you never caught me. You spent 20 years hunting for the switch I would flip. There was never a switch. There was a door. And you built it, staffed it, and printed my badge yourselves. That's how it starts. And that's facts. Okay? Super facts. Now, I put a little note on the article saying, as this file is open, what follows is spoken by an invented narrator. Well, invented, I guess, narrator. Call it the patient adversary. I've told you that the Chinese are very patient. The one our intelligence community places in the room. right? So I would be that. And the People's Republic that ODNI says already works your down ballot races and builds relationships at local levels. ODNI confirms everything we've been saying for 10 years. The narrator is a device. The conditions it exploits are not. The Chinese made components inside American voting hardware are documented. The prosecuted ballot harvesting rings are documented. The 500,000 voter election coalitions are documented. I have only given those documented facts a voice. And I let it brag. Okay? So now, getting back into my CCP. Maybe I should put something on to make me more CCP. I don't know. Chinese women like bows. Let's put the bows on. To be honest, I think I should be like a little Chinese fat Buddha, but I'm not allowed to do that with AI. Make myself look like a little fat Buddha. I got somewhere close, but it took me, I would say, about a few hours to get there. But not really. Game on since yesterday. All right, so here I am, Chinese. You always assumed I would come as a hacker. That flattered us both. A hacker is a story with an ending, a breach you find, a patch you ship, a hearing where someone scolded. You wanted me to be that because that is a problem you know how to hold. So you war game the midnight intrusion, the flip tabulator, the foreign fingerprint in a log file. You hardened the machines, you air gapped them, you printed paper, and every dollar you spent proving the machines were safe was a dollar spent looking in the wrong hand. I never needed to break your election. I needed only to be already inside it, in the metal, in the paperwork, in the volunteer roster, long before the first ballot was cast. Let me tell you how. And let me tell you using only the things you already know and have already been forgotten. Still Chinese. I was in the machine before you bought it. Start with the hardware, because this is the part you refuse to feel. There's no vote counting system in wide American use that is manufactured entirely on American soil, by American hands, from American parts. You know this. Your own security researchers took your machines apart on a convention floor and found my country's fingerprints inside. Chips, boards, modems, the quiet commodity guts that nobody specs and nobody audits. One study of a single popular machine found a fifth of its components sourced from my suppliers and nearly 2/3 from firms operating in my country and Russia. Your vendors admitted it in court that their equipment carried parts from China, including wireless modems. You didn't buy a voting machine. You bought an assembly of the cheapest available parts, most of them from me, and then you asked me to promise I hadn't touched them. This is the gift of commercial off-the-shelf. COTS, your own procurement religion. You buy the cheap commodity part because it's cheap, and the cheap commodity part is mine because I made commodity manufacturing mine while you were writing think tank papers about it. A compromise doesn't have to be planted at midnight in a warehouse in Georgia. It can be designed in upstream, months earlier, in a fab you will never inspect, in firmware you will never read, in a component so boring your auditors skip it. I don't need the whole fleet. I need a make and a model in the counties that matter. Technology is not secure. Technology has never been secure. Every device is a supply chain, and every supply chain runs through somebody's hands. For an astonishing amount of your critical machinery, those hands are mine. And do not comfort yourself that the paper is safe because the paper's dumb. Follow the paper backward too. My companies have spent years quietly buying up your shuttered American paper mills, the boring, upstream, unglamorous places where the stock that becomes ballots and envelopes is pulped and pressed. You cheered the jobs. And notice how often the paper plants themselves are visited by flame. A printing and cutting line in North Carolina paper products plant going up in the small hours of June 2020. $2 million gone. A mill in the same state killing 2 men that September. Accidents every time. dust every time. Then follow the paper forward to the ballots that moved through the drop boxes, which in your last big cycle kept catching fire. Portland, Vancouver, Phoenix, hundreds turned to ash in a week before you counted. And each time you called it vandalism and swept the ash away. I don't need to tell you who lights the matches. I only need you to notice that the one physical record you swear by travels a supply chain and custody chain that burns at both ends, and that I have already learned the shape of it. Now me. Facts. Why what the Chinese version said holds. The hardware findings are documented, not molded. DEFCON's voting village repeatedly found foreign manufactured internal parts, including Chinese hardware, warning explicitly that supply chain compromise well before that machine rolls off the production line. It is a very realistic large-scale threat. Interos found that about 20% of one popular machine's component came from Chinese suppliers, and about 59% from firms operating in China and Russia. NBC News documented Chinese parts and opaque ownership at major U.S. voting machine maker. Vendors have acknowledged the foreign-made components, including modems, in reporting and litigation. The paper thread is partly documented and must be read carefully. Real and cited. A Chinese company has been acquiring closed-up U.S. paper mills. That was on Cronkite News in 2019. A West Rock paper products plant in Mooresville, North Carolina. Remember where George Floyd was from? Yeah. That burned in June 2020. $2 million in losses reported an accidental cardboard dust ignition. Then the Evergreen packaging mill in Canton, North Carolina had a September 2020 fire that killed 2 contractors. And the 2024 Dropbox ballot fires in Oregon, Washington, and Arizona that destroyed hundreds of ballots. Those are crucial caveats that, the Chinese guy glided through, right, when he was telling you this. Those North Carolina plants are American-owned packaging pulp facilities, not Chinese-owned ballot printers. Just remember that. And their fires were reported as industrial accidents. Ask yourself where those plants are now. Good question. You should go look at that. The sober, defensible reading of the 2020-2021 paper crunch is that fires were amplifiers, worsening regional lead times and reducing redundancy, while COVID-era capacity cuts, a demand shift from graphic paper to e-commerce packaging, and logistic bottlenecks were the sector-wide engine. No proven foreign hand lit any of it. Well, we haven't found any litigation to have that. And the burned Chinese-owned ballot printing plant is not a documented event. The viral City Blue imaging version that was fact-checked as false because you look there rather than where you needed to look. That one. The fragility of the paper supply and the custody chain is real and cited. The attribution is spun, and this box says so. So that was part 1 of what the Chinese confessor is saying. We're going to move on, just so that you understand what is really at stake here, right? What's really at stake here. I didn't pick all of the plants that were destroyed. I picked a few. Now, I've been working really hard for almost, I want to say like a year. It was actually last year in November when I started having conversations with people that we cannot have elections in 2026. If we have elections in 2026, we will have a bloodbath in America. And the reason that I made that statement is because we still have these damn machines. And every single lawsuit that has been filed to remove them has failed. Tina Peters, her case was botched, okay? Completely botched because they didn't want to do it that way. Because if she came out and it was in litigation, that would have been way too easy. We got to make it more fun, right? Rather than say that she had shit attorneys. They were shit attorneys. We can't have elections when we have foreign interference. Gabbard did her job. I've said this many times that you're watching a show. The only people that aren't part of the show, I can guarantee you, is myself. This is why I'm not popular. I'm not popular visibly, but most of these clowns and actors, they want to be my friend. They invite me to places. I just don't fucking go. I'm just telling you that right now. Now they can beg me, and I'll say, why don't you call your alpha losers? Why don't you call the Pete Scamtillies? I don't want any business with any of these fuckers. So let's go further, and I'll show you why we cannot have elections. Let me read the next part of the article. Okay, so I'm Chinese again. I'm the Chinese confessor, so I'm putting the bow on my head. Okay. Your own court wrote my playbook. Shit, I can't read on this screen. I am blind as a freaking bat. All right. So much for making paper. Now the handling of it. The part of your system you were told to trust because it's low tech. Paper is only as honest as the hands that carry it. And you have spent years documenting in your own courtrooms exactly how those hands can be turned. You just filed each case as an isolated local crime and moved on. Remember Bladen County? A single operator ran an absentee ballot harvesting machine in North Carolina congressional race so effectively that your state threw out the result and ordered a whole new election run again, the only such do-over of a federal race in your recent memory. 4 people pled guilty. Remember Patterson, where a city council mail-in result was overturned and officials were charged after ballots turned up, bundled in ways no honest count produces? These aren't my inventions. They're your convictions. You proved on the record that a determined operation can bend a real American election through the mail. And then you told yourselves it was rare, local, and solved. I read those cases differently than you did. You read them as crimes that were caught. I read them as a method that works. Proven at small scale by amateurs, the losers that we watch, right? Proven at small scale by amateurs, waiting to be run at the scale and discipline amateurs never had. Your loudest voices even made a folk legend of it. The mules, the couriers moving from Dropbox to Dropbox. Never mind the famous film was pulled and apologized for. The apology only taught you to laugh the whole idea off. That was the most useful thing you did for me all decade. You made the entire category of ballot trafficking a punchline so that no one serious would look at the professional version. What a confession. Sounds like me saying it because I'm telling you it. This is exactly how I tell people. Yeah, those were just isolated incidents. Why are we looking at losers? Let's just bucket them into Antifa rather than point out the fact that they're funded by the fucking Chinese, okay, through money laundering and through the cartel and through the NGOs and. And we're just going to say, no, it was a localized thing. It was just tiny here, tiny there. Just dismiss it. Oh, and then you have to wonder, who the fuck was Dinesh working for? I mean, he's got bruised knees sucking on BB. I don't know who he's working for. Just saying. So let's go back to the why this holds and where the record must be read carefully. So the Chinese side, what they said, the prosecuted cases are real. The North Carolina 9th District, Leslie McCrae Dowless operation, 4 guilty pleas. A state ordered a new election. And the Patterson, New Jersey mail-in ballot case overturned the result and there were criminal charges. And they're documented ballot harvesting prosecutions, both of those, right? What is not established that the Chinese person exploits precisely this gap is any proven mass coordinated nationwide mule operation. Basically, the Chinese are like, oh yeah, but you can't prove there's a nationwide thing, The film that popularized that claim, 2000 Mules, was withdrawn by its own distributor with an apology after a defamation suit. So the honest reading is the sharp one. Small-scale harvesting fraud is a documented reality that has overturned real elections. A proven large-scale version is not in the record. The scenario's menace lives in the space between. Documented at small scale, unproven at large scale. The space that your own politics has made it unfashionable to examine. Okay? So let's put a pin in that one. So Chinese man doing pretty good, huh? Pretty good. China is confessing to everything and just telling us, ha, you loser, ha, you're still using the machines. How about that? All right. So let's go to the next part. And this is the fun part. Next section. I'm Chinese again. I think I look more Korean with the bow, but I digress. You hired my people and called it democracy. Here's the movement you will like least because it needs the least invention. To run paper at scale, I need bodies, credentialed, trusted, placed. And in this cycle, you're building me a workforce at emergency speed and asking it no hard questions. Look at what your own coalition's announced. A 250-day drive to field 500,000 election volunteers and to certify 200,000 paid poll workers across the swing states by the end of August. 200 plus aligned organizations, rapid response networks, some openly retrained from street activism. Your own plan says so. ICE Watch volunteers issued as election monitors, funneled into polling places and counting rooms. You can't background investigate 200,000 temporary hires in a single summer. It's not possible. And you know it's not possible, so you don't. The credential you check is enthusiasm. That's the only credential I have ever needed. I did not have to defeat your vetting. You waived it. For anyone who showed up angry enough, often enough, since 1993. So I showed up, not as an agent with a cover, as a volunteer with a cause, indistinguishable from the sincere ones beside me, because the sincere ones are my camouflage and my delivery system, both. Your courts have already convicted my kind for exactly this. My officials once directed a man on your soil to push an organization's members into a Boston rally to shout down the wrong protesters. Crowd was cover. Organization as vehicle. That's not a theory. It is a filed indictment. Now, imagine that same tradecraft, patient, aimed, not at a rally, but at a county temporal. The observer roster, the adjudication table, the chain of custody clipboard, in the dozen buildings where a 3-seat House and a Senate coin flip are actually decided. I do not need your nation. I need your noisiest, most poorly guarded doors, and you have thrown them open and called it protecting democracy. And when the streets themselves catch fire, understand that I didn't need to strike a match. In the season you called with a straight face the summer of love, I didn't have to manufacture your rage. You manufactured it for me. I had only to stand in the smoke and pour where it helped, amplify the grievance, boost the divisive post, quietly warm the friendly nonprofit 3 hops removed, and let the same coalition that marshaled the marches keep their rosters warm for the next thing. Disruption is not a separate operation from the vote. Disruption is the weather I count in. The network that I can put 10,000 bodies in the street in 72 hours is the network that can put 200,000 credentialed observers in the rooms that decide a country. And it is, so very often, the same network, with the same phones, run by the same hands. Watch the lineage, because it's the whole trick. The hands that ran your summer of love became the hands that ran your ICE Watch, and those very same hands now clip on election watch lanyards and call themselves your guardian against denial. Savor the joke. The ones who scream the loudest that no result may ever be questioned are precisely the ones I have positioned to question, to contest, to litigate, to monitor into January. Every result they dislike. Your deniers in chief will be your deniers. I didn't even have to corrupt the irony. I only had to hand them a mirror and let them march into it. Wow, that's some straight spin truth right there, huh? China just told us, hey, bitches, like, you're making it happen for me. You, like, created this thing, and you're like, 250 days to validate everyone. What have I been saying? For years, these motherfuckers are already in there. They've already been vetted. There's people with no social media. Let me check. Let me check. Let me see. You know, like the granny, that Beth lady from Ohio that's in Massachusetts, but from Chagrin Falls because she's a boozy bitch, right? My neighbor, right? Is the FBI going to investigate her texts, her phones, her emails, maybe her Zoom calls, her jitsies? I guess the people that we're sending them on video, chain of command and all. See, This is what we do every day. Let me show you. I think I have that video. Let me see. Do I have the video? Yes. Here. This is what I do. Ooh. Showing. Gotcha. So we do that every day, all day, right? That's what we do. We actually work, right? Hard, really, really hard for our country. Very, very hard. So maybe the people that we're showcasing and that we have on file, that we send them with a chain of custody number, can be flagged. But we're talking 500,000 people nationwide. And if you saw the app that he was describing in the Ohio thing, they're asking about a car because they need people to deliver ballots and how they do things. So let me go into the what if part. So everything the Chinese person said, listen to the facts. The pipeline is documented. Protect the Vote 2026 is 500,000 volunteer and 200,000 poll worker targets. The swing state concentration and the 300 plus organization election protection coalition are all published. Movement Voter Funds owns the 2026 plan, describing as retraining ICE Watch volunteers as election monitors. The impossibility of deep vetting at that speed and scale is a structural inference, not a reported audit, okay? No examination of the pipeline screening exists in any direction, which is itself the point. The Boston rally infiltration directed by PRC officials is a documented Department of Justice case. The single load-bearing fiction is the confessor himself, okay? Like me being Chinese. There's no public evidence that any foreign operative has entered the American election volunteer pipeline, except for maybe that Wei guy in Ohio. I don't know. That place, who's in charge of voter data, right? Okay. That placement is the invention. It's built into a real shaped gap, consistent with prosecuted tradecraft, forbidden by nothing on the record. The narrator claim that the PRC ran the 2020 Summer of Love is likewise an invention. Bullshit. I say bullshit. These are the facts, though, and I have to say it because nothing has been litigated. Because they funded the shit out of the AFL-CIO. They funded the shit out of all these movements. And Obama for America funded a lot of this shit. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But what the record does show is that Chinese and Russian influence operations amplified divisions American already supply. The ODNI findings and the DOJ 912 case describe boosting divisive content on immigration, drugs, and abortion. Riding the unrest is documented tradecraft. Starting it is the spun thread. So, let's get into this because you all know that I campaigned for this and it was really important. And I guess, your influence machine didn't want this to happen. But I'm going to say it anyway. I'm Chinese now. Let me go back. I got to put my roll on. Maybe I should use a Chinese accent. Let me try it. You'll secure your money better than your vote. Here is the joke I laugh at most. Ha ha. And you built the punchline. A $1 bill, the least important piece of paper in your economy, is engineered to defeat me. Cotton linen substrate. You can feel blind. A watermark held to the light. Does this even sound remotely Chinese? Tell me. I'm waiting to see the chat. Haha. No accent? You don't want the accent? There's no accent? I'm really trying round eye. I can't say the R. Okay, let me try it again. Let me start all over. Here's the joke I laugh at most, and you built the punchline. A $1 bill, the least important piece of paper in your economy, is engineered to defeat me. Cotton linen substrate, you feel blind. A watermark held to the light. A security thread woven through the fiber. I think I sound more Russian. Okay. No, I mean Dutch. Anyway, let's go back to just English. Color shifting ink. microprinting a unique serial number, and it is authenticated thousands of times a day by your cashiers, by pens, by machines. At every point, it changes hands because your entire economy agrees that paper standing in for value must be verifiable on its face and traceable throughout its life. Now, pick up a ballot round eye. The paper that does not stand in for a dollar, but for a share of the arsenal, the courts, the border, the whole republic. In most of your countries, in most of your counties, it has none of that. No mandated security substrate, no universal watermark, no serialized reconcilable chain a bank would accept for deposit slip. You protect the dollar in your pocket with more anti-counterfeit science than the vote that decides who commands the missiles. The technology to make the ballot as hard to forge as currency exists. It's cheap, it's boring, it's sitting on a shelf. Shitting on a shelf. Shitty walk. You already know how I make paper. I count fake paper and count pad. You do it for money. You simply refuse to do it for votes. Now ask yourself who refuses. The officials who run the count are the same officials who would have to adopt the count they cannot quietly touch. A ballot verifiable like a 20 is a ballot I cannot forge. And a ballot they cannot pad, cure, or discover in the back room at 3 a.m. So they tell you it's too expensive, too complicated, too suspicious to want. Think about that. They treat wanting your vote to be as secure as your money as the radical position. Of course they do. Make the ballot as honest as the dollar, and half of them would never win again. And neither could I, says China. That's the one reform that locks us both out, which is exactly why you will be told by the people it will retire, that you must never have it. I hope I tried to do the Chinese accent. I'm not very good to think. I really tried. But you understand the premise here, right? The idiocracy of it. Actual people that are in office that would never be elected if your paper ballot had the same security as your dollar. Forging a dollar bill is very difficult. A ballot's a PDF document they print out. Some of them even put barcodes to make you feel more comfortable. Like, oh yeah, it's a barcode. Oh yeah, we know how many ballots we're supposed to distribute, but how do I know? It doesn't matter. It's a paper. Just fill in the circles. Shut up. See, that's the funny part. We have all these people talk about shit, right? But no one talks about the real shit, the real solutions, right? Because like the Chinaman said, if our ballots were actually as secure as our money, then China, Russia, aliens, nobody would be able to rig the elections. So let's go to the why this holds. The currency engineering facts are real. U.S. paper money uses cotton linen substrate, watermark, security threads, and color shifting ink, microprinting, and serial numbers, and is authenticated continuously in commerce. It is also true that there's no national standard requiring currency-grade anti-counterfeit features on ballot. Some jurisdictions use security paper or barcodes, but adoption is patchy and inconsistent, and the technology to do more is readily available. That much is documented and defensible. The motive that the Chinese part said is that the election officials resist ballot authentication standards to preserve their own ability to win or enable fraud. And it's an argument and inference, but not an established fact. You all know that that shit's true, okay? Officials commonly cite costs, logistics, and ballot secrecy concerns for the same resistance. The gap between we secure the money this way and we should secure ballots that way, and we don't, is fucking real. The imputed reason is the author's contention to offer as such. So as you know, when I ran for Secretary of State, that was it. I wanted to make sure that you can take a pen and check the validity of a ballot. But nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted that. And none of your influencer networks are talking about it because I don't think that's in their NDA. They don't get paid for that shit. Right? Whoever, they're mercenaries, motherfuckers. Yes, they are. They are all trash. All the influencers trash. All they think they are is that they're important because some big name tweeted you. Motherfucker, you don't get it. The higher you go up, the faster you fucking hard fall. Again, that's all I have to say on that. Oh, I'm getting mean. Now let's go. Now let's go to the part where I'm like, hey, told you so. But in a nice way. Let me try to do Chinese. Oh, round die. Let me just zen. Here we go. I have Chinese round die right now. Okay. You will want President Donald Trump. Your clever men told you not to look. Every operation like mine lives or dies on one thing more than any chip or any dollar. Your refusal to read the warning already sitting on the table. The warnings come. They always come. Your own labor federation put a document in your hands before the national vote, and your clever men, the credentialed and seriously titled, the ones who brief our president, told him it was nothing, and it was filed under nothing. I adore your clever men. I love them. They are the most dependable asset I never had to recruit. Look at your own election assistant commission, the bipartisan body meant to stand watch over the machines. For 6 years, your critics pointed straight at it and the equipment it blesses. CHAIII-NA, she come to China, we arrest her. Among them, who swore into federal affidavit in November 2020 in detail so specific that to this day, not one line has been refuted, naming the threat surfaced out loud while your smart people rolled their eyes and called her a name instead of an answer. And what did you finally do? In July of this election year, you fired the commissioners, not the machines, the commissioners. You changed the nameplate on the door and left every vulnerable box exactly where it sat. 6 years to rearrange the watchmen and not one of the things that was set to watch. My attack surface didn't shrink by a single point, thank you. And when you finally whisper a real question, who tell president to ignore a warning? Don't waste it on their motives. Follow their money the way you never quite follow mine. It doesn't arrive stamped in yuan. I learned watching HSBC. You caught a bank moving the better part $1 billion for Sinaloa cartel and the triads. Your line prosecutor drafted a stack of charges. And then your leadership, was that call me? Yeah. They decided bank too big to jail. Let it pay fine and stroll. The man seated on board while it was staying, the bank of choice for cartels, Hong Kong Bank, HSBC. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for my own gray rivers of money, you did not investigate. You promoted him straight into director chair, your FBI. I could never read that as a joke. You lived it as a resume. Read that sentence again slowly and hear how little I had to do. I never had to corrupt you. You ran a wholesale department and I simply shopped in it. Dirty money washes gray. Through cartels, through the banks you will not prosecute. And the distance between foreign purse and a trusted American advisor is a few honest-looking hops. Your clever men are paid not to trace. So basically, right? Basically, I screamed about the EAC. Oh, wait, I'm not Chinese now. I screamed about the EAC. I was like, oh, they need to be fired. We didn't have a quorum, which, by the way, right now, with the firing, there's no quorum, which means that machines can't be certified. Catch my drift? It worked. Timing is everything. Timing is everything, right? Because I think it's right around that time where machines can't be certified because there's no quorum. So that means we can't have elections with machines. And we're going to need some time to print out these ballots. And I guess we'll have elections in March, maybe. I mean, we could probably just print out money ballots. It's ready to go. We have the technology and it's way cheaper than these fucking machines. And all the people that, But you know what's funny? Who was it that told the president, it's nothing? Who left them there? I mean, it's a great contingency plan, so thank you. I did tell you that was a big problem. I did tell you there was no quorum, so those elections were invalid anyway post 2016, right? Now there's no quorum whatsoever. Right now, at this moment that we're speaking, there is no quorum. So let them dream on, because no one's paying attention. But you are, and I am, so we already know. So basically, your Senate, your Congress, your local election officials, your company CEOs, your big time movers and shakers are all funded by China. And the way they did it is that it's kind of like the way Tracy Beans was like, I ain't get paid by USAID. By the time the money got to me, it was clean. Wait, I need my Chinese laughing thing. Hold on. Where is it?
Oh, that's so funny. I can't stop laughing.
I couldn't stop laughing when Tracy Beans, who's allegedly smart, said that shit out loud and posted it, right? But that's exactly how China does it. By the time the money gets into the hands of your Senate, your mayor, your governor, your secretary of state, Meta that then passes it on to the secretary of state, you know, like the millions that Frank LaRose got was actually Chinese dollars that Meta kind of passed on. Just saying. These NGOs that fund all these things, you know, allegedly, all of these things, right? It's just a couple hops away. Like, if I get paid by an NGO right now that's called, I don't know, Apple, 501c3, right? They give me money. I'm like, oh, gee, thanks, Apple. Thanks for the, I don't know, how much did LaRose get? 8 million? Great. But Apple didn't get it. Apple didn't give it to me. Apple got a grant from an NGO that it funds Apple to do C4 activities. So the 501c3 gives the money to Apple and says, yo, find Tori and give it to her. And then they give it to them. But here's the other thing, tracing back further. So one hop is Meta. Well, shit. One hop is Apple. Giving away. Apple gave the money to Tori, the Secretary of State of Ohio, right? And so this is my $8 million from Apple. Like, what are you talking about? Apple gave it to me because they like me. And they wanted to help me with election integrity. So they donated it to me, you know, kind of. So for the elections in 2020, well, in 2019, I went to Ukraine, checked out the elections there, and then came back in 2020 and kind of like, they just gave me the money. Apple just gave me the money. So then Apple gave me this money, this $8 million to help me with election integrity. But the truth is, Apple actually got it from this NGO called the Hopewell Fund, I guess. And so the Hopewell Fund gave it to me, but Hopewell Fund got the money from somewhere else because they're a 501c3, so it's a donation. And what happens is that Hopewell Fund actually got, you know, $8 million from a big firm called Arabella Investors that, if you trace the commingled account, will show that it was Chinese money. So in the end, from Arabella, who washed the Chinese money, it went to the Hopewell Fund. Then the Hopewell Fund gave me, the Secretary of State of Ohio, a grant via Apple or Meta, whatever, allegedly. You see how that works? Okay. I just wanted to explain to you the fiscal hops. That's the same shit with your Congress and your Senate and your mayors and your governors. You know, my president is surrounded by a fucking bunch of idiots that are only looking to make money. Totally looking to make money. And you know what the weird thing is that his kids are being targeted for making money, but they've been making money for like years. So it's bothering them now. But the motherfuckers that are in office making money because they're in office surrounding him, like, how's he going to fix that? Whack-a-mole? Like, I just say fire them all, President Trump. Just get rid of all of them. Fuck them. Or just throw me in your basement like Obama and Bush did. Cigarettes, Red Bull, and 4 friends. We'll have them weeded out in like 72 hours. Probably 48. Give us full access to everything. We won't even leave the bowling alley side room that I used to sit in. Right by the bowling alley, there was a room. That's where I used to sit. And we used to do all the work. I had access to every motherfucking thing I wanted, but I didn't action any of that. The minute I saw something, I would send it to the right analyst and I'd be like, do it. And it was like the president gave that order because it was the Presidential Advisory Board, but it wasn't really the Presidential Advisory Board. It was called the High Value Intelligence Group, meaning a bunch of smart motherfuckers that could weed out everything that have no allegiance to anything but facts. Peace out. This is your bitch right here. So, yeah, we need to give red slips, pink slips, girlfriend, pink slips. So let's go to the what if part. Oh, and the other thing is, I talked about the EAC. They all just got fired. Now we have no quorum. You know what that means. So we're in a good spot. But the question is, why did it take so long? Obviously, because we failed, right? And we let all the losers come out. We let J6 happen. Patrina Pearson saved the president on that one. And now we're dwindling out all the losers amongst us, and me, the storyteller, the fictioner. The fiction in the friction is the one that's able to shed the light, allegedly. All right, so documented and cited. The EAC's remaining commissioners were fired on July 9th, 2026. Hicks, Hovland by email. We talked about that. I think I actually named them in my affidavit. McCormick resigned and Palmer had resigned in April, leaving the agency without a quorum. Made sure I put that in the article so people that know, they know. While the certified voting machine base stays in place. HSBC is real. It admitted moving at least $881 million for the Sinaloa cartel and others and paid $1.9 billion and others. So it moved about $881 million for the Sinaloa, but who are the others? I could tell you. It's a triad, Chihuahua, the Maris cartel. Maris. Oh, did you know that my last name is the name of one of the most vicious cartels or gangs in the world historically? You should look that shit up. Not Peruvian, but I could pass for one, I think. No, I can't. My forehead's wrong. But, let's continue. So HSBC paid $1.9 billion under a 2012 deferred prosecution agreement with no executives criminally charged after prosecutors had drafted a score of charges. They had like a fucking huge list. Charge. And then people like Comey come in who are on the board and say, we're going to strengthen compliance after this settlement. And then he resigned in 2013 to become FBI director. I mean, you get a promotion after you save HSBC. I mean, I wonder what we're going to do to Wells Fargo. I actually gave all the cash to Ron. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Because then we're going to have to tangle in ABN AMRO. We're going to have to tie in Santander. We're going to have to tie in, what's the other bank that helped with the Iranian pallet money? Hold on. Santander, Wells Fargo, ABN AMRO. Oh, and Alpha Bank. Okay, so, I mean, that would be crazy, right? All right, so let's continue. So, Comey's FBI post was a reward for laundering favor, alleged, or the specific AFL-CIO pre-election document was buried on advice, right? You guys saw it. I talked about it. Millie Weaver. It was the late Lieutenant Scott Bennett that actually obtained it. And Millie was supposed to be interviewing them. I think she did, but she never published it. Because sometimes you cut deals. She cut a deal. That's why she never aired the interview with the AFL-CIO heads, because she cut a deal. And Patrick Byrne actually paid for a flight out there and the rental car to go and get this interview, but she never published it. FBI should ask her about that. So Patrick Byrne actually paid for that, and she recorded them. They talked, and Lieutenant Scott Bennett was fucking right. He was the one that sourced it with Dr. Pidgeot. So I'm extremely upset that never saw the light of day, that, the interview never happened. But like I said, in media, like I've been told this too. I was approached just a while ago, by people and said, listen, you're going to do this, this, and this, and we'll do this for you. And you'll be here and in lights and looking great. And, I think you'd be great. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't do that. I'd rather be in a questionable, position in my life, but know where my heart stands rather than sit there and smile and tell people shit. And be a liar, like, oh my God, I had that report for like 3 years and I could have released it and I didn't. Who was it that complained that she wasn't allowed to talk about something because she was told? You see what I'm saying? A lot of that is happening. A lot of your fucking influencers are that. I mean, wasn't it the guy that says, what is it? Patel Patriot, John Hendren, didn't he have in his contract that no one ever is allowed to say Tory's name? Ever. Yeah. When I do my influencer thing for Christmas, it'll be a gift to the whole world. Wait till you see what I show you. I showed you a snippet of what I've got as profiles for each of these influencers, right? But when you see that it all ties back to China and Media Matters and Israel, you'll be very pissed. You'll be very mad. And that's why I say, love me later. You can hate me now. And I know a lot of these operations are also deployed by the FBI and the CIA. Shit, they got to get more improv acting classes for these losers for sure. They're not doing a very good job and they're not very nice. And they're, putting Benny Johnson as someone straight with a family and being all loving is such bullshit too. Like no one's getting that. So, I'm like the most banned person, most suppressed. I'm even suppressed on X. I'm like surprised that I surpassed 50,000 followers. You search my name, you can't find me. So I'm just saying. Yeah, that was specific in NDAs, Jackie. I've seen it. So for people that signed on with whatever they were doing, which doesn't exist anymore, they all fell apart. They're all trying to grasp at straws to do whatever they can. And they can't do their stupid fake podcasts with their squirrely fucking intel because they can't afford it because they're done. Okay. Yeah, that's my cat. He doesn't leave me alone. All right. Let's keep going on this article. Well, no, I don't even have to read the rest. The forward file ledger, I put what's confirmed, all the facts. Then I put what's invented, that there was no confessor. And then the inferred part, which is allegedly, and the disconfirmable, the super allegedly possibly true. So a note that I put out for everyone is one thing here is neither cited, record, nor invention, and I will not smuggle it into the narrator's mouth. But since 2023, and which is true, I have personally observed and recorded organizing calls in which participants discuss placing activists into election-adjacent positions in terms that, in my assessment, warrant counterintelligence attention. That is my firsthand account. It's unverified because it's not been adjudicated in court, but weighted as such, right? I hold the recordings and I can provide them to appropriate investigators. I'm not asking you to believe the confession of the Chinese person above. What I'm asking is why no one with subpoena power will actually fucking test it. If you hold relevant material, hardware, hiring records, recording, preserve the originals first and then report it to the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. Or you can send it to me. I'll take full responsibility for your shit. That's the thing. People actually need to start stepping up, no matter what side of the fence you're on, because we're all Americans. If you sit on the left, if you sit on the right, you're getting paid a bunch of money to do things. You think your organization is a 501c3? If you're joining them, check them. Find out what they are. Like these federal workers against Doge. Did they not look that the Oil and Gas Action Network is funding them? They should know, being federal employees, that that's fraud. And do they not see that the stack people that helped Letitia get in, and again, it's from my source in Letitia's camp that told me about them. Stock got paid $185,000 for shit, and for money, by the way, right? But I already told you he's ours, and you're starting to see that slowly, very slowly. But you're all starting to see it, right? Right? That's why I didn't really give a fuck about him getting elected. And that's fact. Let's see. You guys should read it. I dropped my Roy Singham article, which is pretty brutal. I mean, this is part 7 of an 8-part series on him. And what people need to understand is that Roy Neville Singham is like a direct Chinese conduit. And I'm going to show you the stuff in that article, how the monies move. I map it out and make it as simple as possible. This one didn't need a lot of meat into it like the other previous articles because I ran through them. This was just connecting all the dots for you and bringing in Code Pink that did a lot of work in Havana, Cuba. Now, a lot of people in Code Pink too, I have to say, are intelligence assets too. Deeply undercover, right? But there's not a lot of them left. So I don't know how many would be wearing wires. But right now, this is to all the people on the left that are watching me and bitching about me. You're all going to go to fucking jail because you're colluding and considering treasonous activity. I don't give a fuck how you put it in court that you're exercising your First Amendment. You're getting money from fraudulent means with 501c3s that are not 501c3s. That are just stating that because they are sponsored by a 501c3, conducting C4 activities that are also being funded by foreign money. And so for that reason, I would have to implore you, if you're on the left and you think that Trump is a huge tyrant and everything, do shit on your own. Don't join these groups, because I would hate for you to be in trouble. And for all you out there that have children and high schoolers, that are participating in these things, please be careful what your kids are doing. I know as a mother, I try my best, but our kids, either they be 0 or 50, they never listen. So, Ray, I see. Your thoughts on John Kiraku. He signed with CAA a few months back. I remember you talking about CAA ties to the agency. Seems like they legally silenced John now, and he has quit all his podcasts. Well, I think him coming out and calling out Bustamante, who was extremely entertaining, was the kicker there. If you're signed on to a group that pays you to talk and do circuits, you're not allowed to attack the actors. Okay? I just wanted to state that, make it clear. Yeah, I know Cassandra Fairbanks was involved with Code Pink. She'll tell you she was. You never escape. They just infiltrate. I mean, that's the way how do you take out a tank from the inside? That's how they did it. All right, so I'm going to be traveling a lot. I want to show you my trip from England, something, and I want you to pay attention to this video. Give me a sec. Let me put it up before I go. Out some huge receipts. Huge receipts. Who do we trust? Trust your gut. Come on, you got to be smarter than that. You can see it a little bit simple. Let's walk it this way quickly, right? Before I bounce, because I got to pack because I'm leaving in a few hours. So, we're walking into 2026 elections with machines we already know are compromised, with methods that we already know work for them, with 500,000 strong presence already in our, voter polls, voter registration. They signed up last year, so they're kind of like rolling over. Well, they started in 2023, and then they started the big recruitment through No Kings. They got more bodies for that, revamped them, made them ICE watchers and other people poll watchers. So now they're all merging and coming together. That's basically what's happening. Okay. So we've got that going on. We've got paper ballots that anybody can print. We have losers still running for office. I mean, how the fuck is Frank LaRose even running? Like, the GOP is dead. On this, I agree with Tucker. We need another fucking party. We don't need two parties. We need a third fucking party that annihilates all of them. And you know how we're going to do it? We're just not going to have elections, because we have the Chinese in the machine. We have insurgents within our polling locations that no one can quell. We have petabytes and thousands of hours of them planning and recording and their documentation. Tell the judge how you were exercising your freedom of whatever, going after election deniers, and talk to people, right? And report people and become friends with county people, because you never know, just to be in the know, right? Just that one was interesting to hear, right? So these are the things that we are walking into in 2026. A divided GOP with losers. I speak to Congress people all the time. And our GOP is so fucked up, right? So fucked up. Like, this congressman doesn't. When I told one congressman, My friend demanded that I take her to Jim Jordan, Millie, the blonde. And she wanted to give her shit there for the Zoom calls. The only thing that we gave her that it's not even hers. That's why she's not doing news, because she didn't have anything. A lot of people you're seeing that used to do news aren't doing news because they really don't have anything. They have no NDA, no talking points, right? And then he sat across from me. He was like, Tori, did you really I was like, I already know. It's just like to shut her up. And this is for people that you think are amazing, like Jim Jordan, the fuck he is. Or Kennedy in Louisiana. He's a funny fucker, but not straight. Right? Thanks to our great patriot friend, not just mine. We got video recording of that senator in Louisiana that was primaried. So we got rid of him, right? For talking shit about removing Kennedy and bringing Oz and making Gabbard president, which still holds to what Laura Loomer said, because that's what Congress is discussing. The GOP Congress has been split. The Democratic Congress has been split. The Democratic Congress that's split with the Dems and the GOP that is split with the GOP. They're coming together. That's your third fucking party. Just remember that. And just for the record, I fucking love Tucker Carlson. I know he talks a lot of shit, but he's doing exactly what he should do. Stir the pot, light the flame, and see what comes out on the other side. That's the type of shit we need. People that aren't afraid to say what they feel, say what they mean, and do their job. And that's the way it is. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I really want to do shows. That's what I want. I want to finish up, right? And that's it. Oh, and by the way, it's next, is it Monday that I'm leaving? Wait, hold on. Next Tuesday, I'm going to do the live drawing of who gets a free trip to Cancun, October 8th to October 12th. So anyone that, purchased or sold the products, it's for you and one other person. The hotel is paid for, full resort, right, at Cancun, and it's yours, right? And also the plane ticket. So I can't do the plane tickets until I know who it is, so I can get them for you. So I'm excited, and hopefully while you're there, we can hang out, whoever you are. I don't know who's going to win. I've already created a wheel to try to find a way to obfuscate the identity, because there might be some people that say I can't go on vacation, or I don't want to go on vacation, or maybe they want to give their vacation to someone else, like their kids or their mom or something like that. So you're free to do whatever you want. It's for 2 people. And it's for 5 days in Cancun at a resort, fully paid. So I'm going there too. So, hey. So I wanted to say that I'm going to do that on Tuesday. I created the live raffle thing. It's just so many names. On that note, I also wanted to say, how are you guys doing? Guys, my skin is glowing. And my hair, can you guys see how much it grew back? Those peptides really work. My hair grew back. From balding to hair. As I also learned from Trump admin. Yeah, it would be good if he joined to reform federal prison system. I think it would be good, Ray. He would be a great guy to do that. Because he was there. But it's really hard right now because in the federal prisons, I told you this years ago, but now people are starting to catch on that they're now telling people that have over 10 years for violent crimes that if they let them implant chips in their brains to replace their memories, that they can get a reduction in their sentence. So they're experimenting on the prisoners. The prisoner thing is something really close and dear to me, and I have an appointment in October to talk about the prison organ harvesting with very important people. That was the earliest date that I could get due to elections. So it's so it's a really, 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 really big deal. These are vulnerable people. We can't have pregnant women in prison that get their babies harvested or themselves. We can't have fathers that have their children go to jail, right, for doing some stupid ass shit on a small stint for a couple months and getting your kid back with no organs. And they just think you're too poor to check, so you won't look. There's live cases right now. I don't know if you guys read my series where I talked about the organ harvesting, but this is a real thing. It's not like made up or some conspiracy theory. It's facts. It's in the courts. It's not like made up. And there's a gentleman that, every time I think about it, I just want to cry. So I'm going to forget what he said. I'm going to focus, who just got his kid with no organs. Like, okay, your kid fucked up. Like, that doesn't mean they need to die to help whoever's more rich live. Like, that's not okay. And it turns out in his state, his university does all the autopsies from like prisons, women, and ICE detention centers. And I know you guys are going to be like, fuck them. They're illegals. They're still humans. So I'm just going to say that. Yeah, I did see that LEMD is going to the FDA hearing. That's great. They're the only ones that actually do like US made peptides. Everybody else gets them from like China and India and shit because they want to save a couple $100s. I'm not going to risk my health for a couple $100s. I'll rather do without and just wait until my Affirm frees up and then get more, there's no freaking way that I would get something cheaper because all these influencers are taking it, or my friend took it. Your friend doesn't know what happens in 10 years. If you don't know where you're getting your shit, why are you putting it in your body? Like, that's basically it. So, yeah, I know, Peace Guy. The organ trafficking is not just for the US. And the funny thing is that everyone mocks China about harvesting their prisoners, but we're doing it here too. Isn't that so weird? So fucking weird. So weird. And then people are solving problems. The fuck they are. What's your promo code for the Rumble wallet? Ooh, I don't know. Let me see. Do I have one? I know I have a Rumble wallet. I don't know what my code is. Let me see. How do I find my wallet? Man, I should do like a class on this. Let me see. Rumble wallet. Rumble wallet. Where's my code for my Rumble wallet? Let me just go to my profile and see. God, I feel so dumb not knowing. I have a Rumble wallet, don't I? Does it show a Rumble wallet? Like, I don't know. I know I have one. I haven't been able to stream, so I'm not, Oh, wow. I've got like 18 million views. Funny, my Tori Says original account only has 11,000 followers. I think the other one has like 40. That's interesting. What the heck? Do you guys see my wallet anywhere? I don't know. I have to get back to you on that because I don't know. I get my peptides from LEMD because they manufacture their peptides here in the United States with American products, and that's it. Okay, I don't know how to find the referral. You put in a code, they give $10, and the creator gets $10. Really? I don't know where I'd like that, but I don't know. Scan to tip. Tip with another crypto wallet. Okay, I see my wallet. I don't think I get it. Maybe I don't get that. Maybe it's just other people get that. It is what it is, right? I always get the short end of the stick anyway. Nothing's ever transparent. No one ever walks me through. I make numbers bigger than the fucking losers that have bot farms amplifying them. So, what I wanted to say on the peptides, yeah, I hope a lot of you went on there and said your piece to the FDA. I think the pharmaceutical companies are extremely distraught with, these methods. I mean, you guys know my friend and our friend, she stage 4 sites of cancer within 90 days, the lung cancer and the lymphoma gone. And this is all on peptides and obviously just taking ivermectin and fenbenzone. I think my next show is going to be that carrots aren't real. just want to tell you that. I think when I start my shows, I'm going to start doing that. I need to give people like information. Oh, and if you guys want to get peptides, go to my website at torisays.com. Go to the top banner where it says, let me show it to you. I can show it to you. Because I want people to be able to like make money and do things, because you're going to buy them anyway. So why not? I know my, whoa, what? Okay. I was like, what happened to my website? Say it again. It was like, we're not showing it. Hold on. Let me see. There we go. Okay. So that's my website. Let me put it on here so you guys can see it. Where's the ad? Okay. So let me make this big. All right. So as you see, this is my website. I'm changing it. It's going to be Tor. But over here, let me see. Can you guys see it? Yeah. Okay. So over here, I have American Makers. If you click on it, you'll see like Metalheads USA does a lot of great steel work. We have McNaughton. I love his artwork. And then Northern Arborist, they're in Pennsylvania, Butler. They came and helped me out with my trees. So if you need anything for that, this is it. Then we go into health and longevity. To all the people that have sent me emails, I've actually put them by state. So if your state's here, I haven't gotten everybody's stuff yet. I should do another round, but I think they get lost in like spam because I get a shit ton of email. So, and I'm not going to hook up an AI to look for it for me. I'm sorry. So you can pick a state and then like, let's go to Illinois, and this person is selling. Or if you go to Minnesota, these people are. Or if you go to California, these people are. So they use LEMD. And you could see all the people that are there, and their moms or professionals. And then if you want a facelift for an hour to get, a neck lift or whatever, here's where you go to Lifetime Lift. It's a great guy. That's the person that I was texting when, I started losing weight, and I was like, oh my God, I need a neck lift. And he was like, no, you fucking don't. If you put fillers in your face or Botox, I can't help you when you need the facelift. He told me that. So I did pretty good with the microneedling and a shit ton of Korean skincare, and the peptides help, specifically the copper that I take. I take the copper, the BP157 for gut health. I take glutathione, NAD. Like I take them all. MOTS for sure for the cancer. I mean, that copper peptide, look guys, I was balding. Like this is all like new hair. My hair is so freaking long. I actually got it cut today. But I was like literally balding. The people that had seen me probably could see that I had like a thin, you can't even see on the camera here, but it actually works. And I feel healthy. They do have GLPs as well. I mean, for those of you that want to lose weight, like the GLP actually has a toxin. I mean, they work for most people, but I would stay really low on the dose because it's actually a toxin. I didn't take it, but I can't wait for retatrutide to come out so I can lose the last like 20 pounds. So when that's done, when that's out with LAMD, I'll take it because I want to make sure that it's American made to get it. For the hair, I use that IGK spray, right? That I had raved about, that I put those Amazon links. That actually works. Like I have baby hairs growing all the time. Like these were baby. And look how long my hair got. Like in months, like I'm constantly getting new growth. Yeah, that's a copper peptide. It's for skin, hair, and nails. Like my skin looks fantastic, and so do my nails. Yeah, well, I got it done today. I went to Jillian and she cut my hair today. So I got it cut. So it looks good because she did it. Other than that, it's in a bun. Okay. It's in a bun or in like the curler things. So that it looks good. So yeah, I do all this Korean skincare. I found this new Korean thing. This is like crack, but there's a 5D one. I think they sell them at like Sephora or something. That's for the super aged skin. that shit, you didn't even realize how thirsty your skin is until this. Like my skin is shiny, but I'm not wearing any highlighter, but it's like just bouncy. I look sweaty, but not wet. So it's really good. Yeah. Wireless body area network, 5G, 6G. Someone says copper. If your body's working optimally, it can actually function a little bit better, even though you're being penetrated. I just want to say that. But yeah, I'll put the links up. I think I put this in the Amazon thing. I put like a stupid little store up there to put it on there. You know, I can't wait to see President Trump's speech tomorrow, but it is July 15th, August 15th, 16, August 16. Ooh, it's like for hours. So we'll see. We did see Jim Acosta and other left-wing influencers advocate for the presidential address to not be aired, which is fine with me. Because did I write the article or is it still in draft where it was talking about how the FCC is going to pull the TV licenses? But let them do it. They're under review right now. So if you don't show a presidential address or you cut it off, your license is being pulled, bitches. How about that? Especially when they find out that a lot of your programming is being paid by foreign governments, which is why you're so selective about, is it thundering? Which is why, oh shit, and I gotta fly. Which is why they are losing their shit right now. Okay, it's not thundering. Okay. All right. We should just postpone it and get like valid paper ballots and get these subversives out of there. This is my 2 cents. I mean, we don't even have a quorum now, so your machines aren't valid. Boo. All right. So, the Amazon stuff, yeah, I'll put it on the link. I have like a little Amazon store where I put stuff there. All right. On that note, you guys, you are loved. God loves you, even though you may not love him. He loves you always. And I'm going to leave you with this. One of my favorite tunes. Let's go. Have a great night, guys.